Hey truckers, today we're seeing part 12 of From Enemies to Lovers, a hidden marriage story. Let's dive into the video. Everyone who was close to Tang Yi understood that once he took off his glasses and went into battle mode, he transformed into another persona. He would become an extremely dangerous being, pretty much a maniac. What's this? Are you trying to force me now? Listen to me, first senior brother. You can't force your way through. Ningxi tried to persuade him. Tang Yi was like a walking weapon, but the Tang Yi sans glasses was like an unsheathed sword. His eyes were full of bloodlust, and even the way he spoke was different. My dear junior sister, don't worry, I'm just going to test you. No. I refuse. Ningxi yelled immediately as she shook her head vigorously. Trouble was coming one after another. Why did he suddenly want to fight her? Tang Yi ignored her and launched into his attack. Damn it! Are you for real? This was Tang Yi, not her third senior sister Feng Xiaoxiao. If she could take on 10 of his attacks or so, she would be considered doing well, but in her current state, having slacked off training for a year, she might only be able to just withstand 4 or 5 attacks. Ningxi tried to defend herself while shouting at him, "Calm down, first senior brother. Calm down. What's happening? Why are you so eager for a fight? Didn't second senior brother satisfy you?" Tang Yi became even more violent after he heard her mention second senior brother. He snarled and aggressively came at her as if he was a beast that was just released from his cage after a few hundred years of imprisonment. Ningxi felt something was not right. First senior brother, what's going on? I can't take it anymore. Stop, I can't. Really, no more. Tang Yi's grip was already encasing her throat. She would be dead if he continued constricting her airways. Tang Yi was unstable at that moment. He was almost on the verge of going berserk and nearly failed to hold himself back. His sharp senses suddenly picked up some movement and he glanced downstairs. He quickly let go of Ningxi and put his glasses back on while Ningxi was still petrified as she gasped to inhale the sweet air that she longed for. Ningxi panted, "First senior brother, what's the matter? Did anything happen to second senior brother?" He's missing, Tang Yi replied curtly. The manic fire in his eyes extinguished after he put his glasses back on and his stoic poker face returned, but there was an obvious depressive aura when he replied Ningxi. What? Missing? Ningxi was surprised. Second senior brother was talented and picked up everything very quickly. On the other hand, first senior brother was the exact opposite. He would train endlessly to the extreme to master certain skills. Only second senior brother could measure up to first senior brother. The combat warrior, first senior brother, always picked him to practice dueling with. With second senior brother's attitude and the way he learned so well without investing much effort, Tang Yi always chose to fight him again, and again. If there was a way to describe their relationship, it would be that they wanted to kill each other out of love. Naturally, if second senior brother was not around, the juniors would be picked to become first senior brother's practice partner. Like what just happened today. How did he suddenly go missing? Ningxi frowned. No wonder first senior brother was so desperate for a fight, even when she was clearly lacking training and would be no challenge to defeat at all. But knowing second senior brother, wasn't it normal for him to go missing for a few days? It's not unusual for him to not show up for a few weeks, Ningxi told Tang Yi. In the organization, she was the closest person to second senior brother. He always brought her around to do crazy things like extreme sports. Him not behaving wildly would be odd. At that point, she felt that her master was indeed very wise. When he adopted second senior brother, he had christened him Tang Lang, fitting indeed. Half a year, Tang Yi replied her. What? Half a year? That long? Ningxi was startled. That does seem a little too long. Was there no news about him in these past few months? Nope. Tang Yi was about to ask Ningxi if she had been contacting Tang Lang, but from her reaction, he knew she had not. Could it be that something has happened to him? Ningxi mumbled worriedly. Tang Lang was an arrogant fellow and loved to cause trouble everywhere. He was not lacking in enemies and probably would bump into one even if he just left his house to dispose of his trash. Even a random dog on the sidewalk would have probably been victimized by him before. He had better stay dead outside, Tang Yi said coldly. Ningxi glanced at Tang Yi, not believing his cruel facade for a second. You're the one who'll miss him the most. A while ago, in a black car on the ground floor. Lu Tingxiao's face remained unchanged, all emotions sealed within him. Bro, are you all right? Lu Jingli asked anxiously. He seriously thought about finding someone to help his brother fend off these romantic rivals. Lu Tingxiao was looking at the bright screen and instructed, Jingli, please stand by outside. Geht the L-Testvels on no/v/Elben. C/om. Why? I don't want to. You're hiding something from me. Lu Jingli frowned, acting petulantly like a child. Lu Tingxiao looked at his brother sharply. Be good. Lu Jingli was intimidated by his brother's simple words and alighted from the car, but he looked back at his brother with unease the moment he left the car. Lu Tingxiao made a phone call after Lu Jingli left. A lazy voice drawled, hello. Do it now. No words were spoken for a while, then a whine came through, boss, it's already quite a rush if I were to follow the timing we decided on earlier and you want me to do it now? It's really tough on me. You've been torturing me lately. Tang Yi isn't there, Lu Tingxiao said. Another short silence ensued before he answered, this time in a confident tone, it's impossible for Tang Yi to leave. Lu Tingxiao turned on the video call and showed the other person the screen. On the screen, Tang Yi was kneeling on one knee in front of Ningxi with a bouquet of roses in his hands. After he saw the screen, the man was stunned. What the F***ck? What's wrong with Tang Yi? Has he gone mad? Damn him, he's flirting with girls behind my back. Based on my calculations, you have 6 hours for him to travel back, Lu Tingxiao reminded him and was about to turn off the video, but the man quickly stopped him. Wait! This girl looks familiar. Why does she look like my little junior sister? She really does look like her. Little junior sister in a girl's outfit? Boss, please give me a high-definition version for better clarity. Visit no.v3lb/n.cm for new OVL. All of a sudden, Lu Tingxiao ended the call without hesitation. Lu Tingxiao continued staring at the screen. The shot was taken from a distance, so there was no audio. He did not know what their conversation was about, but from Ningxi's expression, she seemed to have rejected him. The two of them had suddenly fought in combat with each other and then came down to a discussion. In the end, Tang Yi told Ningxi, if he contacts you, let me know immediately. It really was true love between them. Okay. Ningxi nodded, then asked, but how do I contact you? I can't call or message your number. I'll give you permission to, but only a message a day. Ningxi was speechless. This guy was even harder to contact than the emperor. Tang Yi raised his hand and the helicopter behind him started whirring to life. Ningxi held her skirt down as the wind churned all around her. Tang Yi stood there and stared at her as if he was examining an exotic creature. Ningxi was confused. First senior brother, what's wrong? Little junior sister, are you really a woman? Tang Yi looked at her like one of the world's wonders. Ningxi's face darkened like the bottom of a burnt pot and ground out between her clenched teeth. don't you think your sentence doesn't make sense? How can your little junior sister be a man? The girl in front of him donned a pink dress, with silky long hair whipping in the air, looking extremely feminine and surprisingly attractive. If he had not seen her picture in a female outfit before, he could not have possibly recognized her as Tang. She finally announced, "I'm leaving." However, before he stepped away, he turned around. "Can't you think about it?" He felt he should do more since it was an S-class mission after all. Ningxi was wondering what he was going to say and did not expect this attempt of his. "No, thanks, I would like to stay alive longer." Tang Yi nodded, agreeing with her point. Ningxi was relieved to see Tang Yi finally leaving, but Tang Yi spoke further. "Satan asked me to tell you something." Ningxi raised an eyebrow coolly. "What?" "I'll meet you at our old meeting spot a month later in Philadelphia." Tang Yi then boarded the helicopter without waiting for Ningxi's response. The helicopter rose slowly and the wind picked up. Ningxi looked glumly at the departing helicopter. Damn it! She thought she could get away with this. There was more to it. How long was she going to suffer from this? After Tang Yi left, Ningxi felt pressured for a whole month, as if she was just diagnosed with cancer by the doctor and was counting down the days till the Grim Reaper came for her. Meeting Tang Yi and meeting that person directly were two completely different matters altogether. There were many unpredictable events on this journey. And she had to go. Ningxi passed the days by bringing little treasure to different places and having fun. She put all her effort into Spirit Studio and the promotion for the world. She also made sure to spend some time with her grandfather. The post-processing for the world was complete and she now had to travel to various cities to promote the movie. Everyone with experience would know that promoting was much more exhausting than acting itself. Ning Xuelua and Zhao Xizhou were both busy and they only went to a few main cities to promote it, but Ningxi had to follow the crew and travel everywhere. In between promoting, she spent some of her precious time discussing with Gong Shangze about the upcoming Golden Award competition. She was not keen on preparing herself for her new acting gig yet, as she was afraid that she might not be able to come back. She wished that she could have more time to spare, even skimping on her sleep to 4 to 5 hours every day. She simply had too much to do in this short 1 month. When Ningxi just finished one of her road shows, she received a call from Lu Jingli. "Xiao Shi, why couldn't I reach you?" Lu Jingli asked urgently. New N0VEL chapters are published on N0V/E/LB/IN/co/M. I was on the plane just now. What's up? You have 10 seconds. Ningxi said coldly. Xiao Shi, are you possessed by my brother? Why are you talking like him? Lu Jingli asked. You have 7 more seconds. Lu Jingli was speechless. 5 more seconds. Please help me, Bro Shi. I know you've been really busy recently, but I wouldn't call you if it's not urgent. Lu Jingli quickly blurted out. What happened? Ningxi asked. My brother went on a rampage. Lu Jingli groaned. What do you mean? Ningxi frowned. Actually, this happened half a month ago. He has been acting weird ever since you went to Fahua Temple and convinced Shi Shiqing to turn away from monkhood. Fahua Temple? Ningxi had been so overwhelmed with her last few weeks on Earth and she almost forgot about the entire incident. In fact, she felt like it happened eons ago. Yes. And I'm sorry, Bro Shi, there's been something I've hidden from you. Lu Jingli stuttered. What is it? Tell me quickly. I'm on my way to the studio to have some discussion with Gong Shangze. It's the Golden Award competition tomorrow. Ningxi pressed him. My brother found out about what you did to Shi Shiqing in the temple. Lu Jingli divulged swiftly. Ningxi was speechless. Then, she roared into her phone, "Why would your brother know about it?" Lu Jingli. Did you rat me out? You told him, didn't you? Ningxi would strangle him to death across the line if she could. Lu Jingli quickly explained, "I was going to check on the situation, but he figured it out himself that you'd seduce Shi Shiqing, so I could only tell him the truth." In the end, tragedy broke out. My brother has been in hell mode since that day. Not only that, there's one more thing. Ningxi put her hand to her forehead and clenched her teeth. Lu Jingli, you idiot! Couldn't you just have denied it? She took a deep breath and calmed herself down. What else? That midnight, at the top floor of the Regal Riviera Hotel, my brother saw someone proposing to you. Ningxi clamped her lips tightly together, not wanting to say anything. Could there possibly be anyone unluckier than her? This was one of her worst moments ever in her life. Everything was falling out of place. Murphy sure was going all out on her with his stupid law. Bro Shi, only you can do this, I can only rely on you now. Lu Jingli begged. There's no use. What can I do? Ningxi said exasperatedly, flailing her hand into the air. Please help, Bro Shi, my brother is acting really weird lately. I hope that you can at least talk to him. I really wanted to share his burden, but he's not telling me anything. Lu Jingli sounded disappointed. Although Lu Tingxiao always looked cold, he was a really kind and caring person beneath that steely exterior. As his only brother, he had always been protected safely under Lu Tingxiao. Despite being strict with him, he would never let him be involved in anything dangerous. Behind Lu Corporation's achievements lies the abyss, and Lu Tingxiao was the one who handled it, and what Lu Jingli faced was just the glory. At the airport, Ningxi inhaled deeply and looked at the time on her phone. She asked while flagging down a taxi, "Where's your brother now?" Lu Jingli quickly replied, "In the office." "Little treasure's here too." "Got it, I'll be there in half an hour." Ningxi sent Gong Shangzi a message to let him know that she would be late, then she hopped into a taxi and went on her way to the Lu Corporation. It was about half a month since she last saw Lu Tingxiao. If she only had a month left to live, what she wanted most, of course, would be to spend those precious moments with the person she loved. But she had too much to be done and she did not dare to face Lu Tingxiao because she was afraid that she might not be able to control herself. The share prices of the Lu Corporation had been rocketing and major achievements of the company were announced one after another, so she thought that Lu Tingxiao was doing well. At the office, Ningxi looked at the employees and saw everyone had dark circles under their eyes, looking as if they had just crawled out from the grave. Those achievements that were strewn across the business news surely came at a high price. Lu Jingli quickly pulled her to a corner when he saw her. "Bro Shi, have you got a plan?" Ningxi looked at him expressionlessly. "No, new tirais at n/vel/b/i/n.co." Lu Jingli's face went pale and he mumbled, "Void as the world is void, I should go and become a monk as well, then I can go to the heavens instead of to hell." Ningxi glared at him and stomped on his shoe. "Go and get me a bottle of wine." "What a troublemaker!" Lu Jingli's eyes shone. "Have you got a solution now?" Ningxi massaged her arms which were stiff from the long period of sitting on the plane. "Quickly!" "All right, just a moment." Lu Jingli came back with a bottle of wine. "Bro Shi, the wine is here." Ningxi took it over from Lu Jingli, opened it and to his horror, poured it all over herself. Then, she drank a little and handed the bottle to him. "Bro Shi, what are you doing?" Lu Jingli asked weakly. Ningxi had a terrifying expression on her face. She only uttered, "Your brother." She then walked towards the CEO's office. Lu Jingli was speechless by the situation that had just unfolded. Brother? What was happening? Lu Jingli could only watch as Ning Shi went into the CEO's office and he waited outside anxiously. The moment she got in, Little Treasure went up to her. She had not seen Little Treasure for a few days as she had been traveling for the past 1 week. She kissed him and did not want to let go, but she remembered what she had to do, so she told him gently, "Baby, can you go to your second uncle for a while? Spare me 10 minutes here." Little Treasure nodded obediently and went out to look for Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli was nervously wringing his hands and pacing up and down nervously outside. 10 minutes, she said. Would that be enough? After Little Treasure went out, Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl with his stormy eyes, his real emotions barely showing through. "You're back." The girl looked slimmer and her aura was slightly different as well. It seemed colder than before, conflict flashing momentarily in her eyes. What did not change was his impulse to hug her right away. During that period of time, he thought about flying over to her place to see her even for a single glance, but he did not dare not to. He could not face her with the knowledge of what he had done behind her back. He knew that she was the love of his life, but he had still done something that might hurt her. Ning Shi put down her luggage and handbag, then took off her coat and walked towards Lu Tingxiao. As Ning Shi came closer, Lu Tingxiao's eyebrows furrowed and he interrogated in a slightly unhappy tone, "Did you drink?" "Yeah. You promised Little Treasure you'd cut down on alcohol." With such a thick cloying stench of alcohol on her, she seemed to have drunk a lot. Ning Shi rested her palms on his table and grinned at him. "Are you going to tell on me?" The notches between his eyebrows deepened even more as Ning Shi displayed her indifference. "If you don't take care of yourself, I might consider putting your current work on a halt." Ning Shi felt bitter about this man's unique way of showing his concern. She was probably going to die soon, so what was the point of taking care of herself? What was there left to ponder so much about? She should just let herself go and not bother concealing anything anymore. Lu Tingxiao seemed very upset. He picked up the phone and was about to call Ling Zhizhi. "Hello." Before Lu Tingxiao could continue any further, Ning Shi pressed down on the hang-up button and cut off the line. Then, much to his shock, she suddenly closed in and pressed her lips against his. Lu Tingxiao's hand froze with the dead dial tone still beeping on the phone. His expression was indescribable and he was rigid as a statue. Ning Shi slowly backed away after a few seconds. She looked at him seductively with a blush creeping to the apples of her cheeks and in an innocent tone, she said, "Boss, can I bribe you?" "You're drunk," Lu Tingxiao declared as he broke out of his stupor and kept his composure. "Boss, you haven't answered my question." Ning Shi refused to give up so easily and her smoldering gaze made her act even more realistic. She wore a short black dress today, fully exposing her delicious skin and her luscious collarbones. Lu Tingxiao gulped as he averted his gaze from her and ordered coldly, "We'll talk about this after you're sober. Go and take a nap in the lounge." Ning Shi felt annoyed. She put in so much effort into this. And now he was acting like a saint? "You devil, if you are going to continue acting this way, you will never ever get laid." Ning Shi clenched her teeth and decided to take the game to the next level. "Lu Tingxiao, I can't move, carry me there." She even changed her way of addressing him, drawing out his name pleadingly. Lu Tingxiao's hand slipped and he accidentally made a mark on the paper with his pen. He refused to look at her and dismissed her. "Go on your own." "Damn it!" Read latest chapters at novel.bin/c/o/m only. Ning Shi was really impatient now. Her time was precious. He could at least be kinder towards her. They had not met for such a long time and he was treating her this coldly. Ningxi took out her phone and pouted. Fine. I'll get someone else to carry me. Lu Tingxiao finally looked up and glanced at the screen of her phone. He saw Shi Shiqing's name. Before Ningxi could put the phone to her ear, she suddenly felt herself floating away from the floor. Instinctively, she wrapped her arms around Lu Tingxiao's neck to keep her balance and with a cunning look in her eyes, she tried her best not to grin. Lu Tingxiao's expression became even colder as he carried her to the lounge. Although he looked really unhappy, he put her down on the bed very gently. He then helped her to remove her shoes and pulled the sheets up to her chin, exposing only her palm-sized face and spoke to her in a warning tone, "Sleep." Ningxi blinked her eyes and nodded like an obedient little child, but what she was about to do was the complete opposite. The moment Lu Tingxiao stood up, Ningxi yanked his hand so hard that Lu Tingxiao lost his balance and ended up on the bed right beside her. To avoid him escaping, she crawled onto him and pinned him down, whining, "I can't sleep, stay here with me." Lu Tingxiao was annoyed and asked in a low voice, "Who gave you the wine?" He was going to kill that person. In the meeting room, Lu Jingli, who was with Little Treasure, suddenly sneezed multiple times. Ugh, who's cursing me behind my back? He glanced at his watch. 5 minutes had passed and he had no idea what was happening in the room. In order to ensure his own survival, however, he did not dare to peek, no matter how curious he was. He just suppressed his curiosity and imaginary situations flew around in his head. He had no idea what Ningxi was going to do and what would happen if she failed. Ningxi looked at the man and gently caressed his face. She ran her slender fingers along his high nose, his cold eyes, his thin lips. She wanted to remember his face, every inch of it, every angular surface, every stubble. Okay? She wanted him to accompany her even for just a little while longer. Even though he knew that she was not sober, he could not refuse her request. Okay. Ningxi gave him a satisfied smile and closed her eyes in peace. But after a while, she peeked at him and whispered, "I still can't fall asleep. Can you pretty please kiss me?" Sleep. With a piercing look, Lu Tingxiao pulled the sheets higher, covering her. Oh. Ningxi was disappointed. Lu Tingxiao softened when he saw Ningxi's mournful eyes and he kissed her on the forehead. As he was preparing to leave, the girl threw her arms around his neck and kissed him on the lips, molding her lithe body as close as she could to his. It was not his first time kissing her. He had tried many methods to get closer to her before, but this was the first time she kissed him on her own accord. Lu Tingxiao felt her sweet, gentle lips undulating against his as an indescribable feeling rose in him. His emotions ushered him to indulge in this sweetness while his rationale practically yelled at him. Who did she think was she kissing and who did she take him for? His rationale was straying further and further away, drowned out by the lust. At last, he hugged her and was going to take the lead but she fell on his chest. Lu Tingxiao panicked and quickly helped her up, then he saw her fast asleep. Lu Tingxiao was speechless. This girl acted all drunk and crazy, turned him on and now she was asleep? Ningxi was exhausted after a long flight. Even on the plane, she had been busy settling matters related to her studio to the point that she could even fall asleep while seducing the devil. Even she did not expect this herself. While she was in her slumberland, she faintly felt a feather-like sensation on her forehead which brushed downwards to her lips. At first, it hurt slightly, then it became gentler. Ningxi slept soundly and by the time she woke up, the sky was already dark. Ningxi quickly sat up and turned on the table lamp. She checked the clock on the table. She had been sleeping for 2 hours. What the heck did Lu Jingli give her? Just one gulp of that wine and down she went. News tirais at n/vel/b/i/n. Co. How did I sleep for so long? She thought she would just take 10 minutes. She had a lot of things to work on and she wondered if the studio tried calling her. Ningxi quickly looked at her phone, then she realized it was switched off. Damn! Who switched off my phone? She had charged her phone fully not too long ago. It was impossible for it to run out of battery so soon. I switched it off. Any complaints? A cold voice suddenly came from the sofa opposite her. Ningxi trembled at the voice. She slowly turned her head towards the man. No, nothing, as you wish. Are you sober now? Lu Tingxiao looked at her while closing his file. Yes, very sober. She knew he was going to get back at her now. Then, let's talk about your issues at work. As expected. Ningxi remembered the last few moments before she had fallen asleep just now. Was it too late to continue seducing the devil now? Look. Lu Tingxiao handed the document to her. What is this? Ningxi took it suspiciously. Working policy? Number 1, no working more than 6 hours a day? Isn't that too little? According to the law, the maximum is 8 working hours. As she mumbled, Lu Tingxiao gave her a cold stare, so Ningxi shut up and continued. Number 2, no overdrinking. Number 3, eat 3 meals a day. Number 4. Finally, Ningxi came to the last one. Number 10, no bribing the boss? Huh? Memorize them. Oh. Under Lu Tingxiao's supervision, only after she had memorized all 10 of his commandments did he let her leave. She was chased out as if he was afraid that she might jump him again. Was she that terrifying? What she did was not completely an act. The effects from Lu Jingli's wine was pretty strong. Was the devil not concerned about her seducing Shi Shiqing? She was trying to make it up to him and make him feel better, but things escalated so quickly and went way out of her hands, and in the end, Ningxi felt better though, as if she had taken some magical potion. She felt relieved from all her fatigue and stress, and even her steps became lighter. Come to think about it, it seemed like Lu Tingxiao had comforted her instead of the other way round. She had given herself too much pressure. Things were not as bad as she had thought. If the person wanted to do something against her, he had had many chances earlier. He could have even wiped her out during Tang Ye's last visit. From her 1 year of absence, she knew that she was just an unimportant character. She vowed to settle it this time at the meeting. However, it would remind her of her old pathetic self by going there alone. It was not that she could not face Tang Yi or that person, it was her old self that she did not want to face. On the way to the studio, Ningxi was about to call Gong Shangzhou when a call came in. Lu Jingli's excited voice came through, Broshi, 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 Broshi. Find PD Tez on n/VLN.cm. Are you a broken CD player? My brother has returned to normal. Did you guys do it? Lu Jingli sniggered. He could only think of that possibility. Ningxi's nostrils flared as she scolded him, stop imagining things. Do you think your brother would act that fast? Lu Jingli had no words to reply. He would not have thought about it since Ningxi had said it would take just 10 minutes, but in the end, Ningxi had stayed in there for over 2 hours. 2 hours was not short. However, it seemed like an eternity for his brother who had been holding in for so long. Speaking of which, what kind of wine did you give me? It was an expensive one. It's known as the one shot down. Lu Jingli told her excitedly. What are you trying to do by giving me a whole bottle of that? I thought you'd give it to my brother and seduce him, so of course, I got you the best. Who'd have known that you would only drink a little and pour the rest all over yourself? He was not wrong. She really did seduce him, but not with the wine, you idiot. After talking to Lu Jingli on the phone, Ningxi was chatting to Little Treasure when a phone call from the studio came. Hello, Momo. Sis Shi, something's wrong. Something happened to Gong Shangze. Come over quickly, the studio assistant urged, her voice laced with worry. Something has happened to Gong Shangze? What is it? He suddenly fainted. Ningxi gasped. Why did he suddenly faint? Don't worry, I'm already on my way. I'll be there soon. That naughty child. He must have overworked himself. At Spirit Studio. The moment Ningxi pushed the door open, she saw Gong Shangze's ashen face in the midst of a large pile of crumpled-up draft papers. The assistant, Han Momo, lay beside him, sobbing her eyes out. Sis Shi! You're finally here. Han Momo looked up at her as though her savior had just arrived. She said between sobs, I've called for the ambulance, but the hospital says that they're too busy and can't arrange for a vehicle to come over, and I alone can't seem to carry him. Ningxi passed her bag and hand phone to the assistant, then bent over and immediately lifted the unconscious Gong Shangze by the waist before putting him on the sofa bed in the lounge area. Han Momo watched as Gong Shangze was practically being carried like a bride over the threshold, and her mouth turned into an O. She exclaimed, Sis Shi, your boyfriend's skills are amazing. No, it's just your director who's so light. Didn't I assign you to take care of him? Why does he look like he's gotten scrawnier in the last few days? Ningxi scowled. The assistant immediately looked guilty when she heard Ningxi's comment. Sis Shi, I can't seem to advise him. You are probably unaware that although Gong Shangze is generally a docile man, once he started working, his entire attitude changes and it's frightening. He practically turns from a monkey into a gorilla. If I make so much of a sound, he would shout at me furiously. I don't even dare to make any sound when I walk across the room, much less remind him to have his meals and rest. Sis Shi, I think it's best if you talk to Director Gong yourself. He only listens to you. From a monkey to a gorilla? Ningxi was confused by the assistant's description but agreed to her. Fine, I'll talk to him later. Then, she touched Gong Shangze's forehead. Indeed, it was burning. He has a slight fever. Momo, go to the pharmacy downstairs to buy some medicine for his fever. Okay, I'll go now. The assistant quickly ran down to get the medicine. Ningxi and the assistant took care of him for a good part of the night before Gong Shangze finally woke up and tried to sit up. Boss. Lie down, don't move. Ningxi pushed him back down and glared at him sternly. What did I tell you right from the start? Your body is your most important asset. If you don't have your life anymore, what use would that be? Those who didn't know better would think that I'm a cruel boss who mistreats her employees. This was karma. She finally understood how Lu Tingxiao felt. It really was difficult to be a boss. All new chapters nnv.com. No, you don't. I am willing to. Gong Shangze quickly responded. Even if you're willing, you still can't. I'm the boss and you have to listen to me. Or else, you should just get another job. Ningxi emphasized harshly. Gong Shangze immediately panicked. Boss, I won't do it again. Please don't say that. Seeing the youth's haggard appearance, Ningxi sighed. Look at you. Can you still attend the competition tomorrow? Since we have already discussed the flow many times, I'll go over with Momo. You stay at home and rest well. Boss, I have to go. It's already the finale. I'm fine, I won't have to do much then. I only need to watch the models on stage to make sure they don't make any mistakes. Gong Xiangze persisted, even though I have tried my best, but the likelihood of us winning this time is quite low. The award is so important this time around. I am sure that David will definitely choose my favorite work. Ning Shi's face darkened. To Gong Xiangze, this was an arduous battle. Because his competition was not anyone else, it was himself. Don't worry, as long as you've done your best, that's enough. Even if you don't make it this time, there will be a next time and another next time. One day, you will definitely defeat your demons from the past. You have unlimited possibilities, while the other rival only has a pile of design drafts that will run out one day. There is nothing to be afraid of, Gong Xiangze. Find PT Tez on n/vln.cm. Gong Xiangze looked at the girl's shining eyes and felt recharged with gusto. He nodded at her confidently. Okay, rest well then. There's still a hard battle to fight tomorrow. The next day at the Golden Award venue. As the highest honorary award of Chinese fashion design, the venue was decorated luxuriously and had a magical vibe to it. The seats were hung a meter above the ground and the lights were divided into 5 colorful strobes, glowing onto the T-shaped stage that was inspired by Noah's Ark. Passes to the competition were hard to get since everyone present was well known within the fashion circle. Even Ning Shi received an invitation only because she was the owner of the studio which submission was shortlisted and not because she was a celebrity. Ning Shi walked in with Gong Xiangze and Han Momo, poised. Just a few steps into the venue, they found that the path ahead of them had been blocked. The competition had yet to start, but the photographers and reporters were already crazily surrounding the hot designer highly anticipated to take home the award, David. The shutters of their cameras clicked away and they were scrambling to ask him questions. David, are you confident to win the award this time around? Everyone's saying that this Golden Award will definitely be yours. We heard that the last Golden Award winner, Teacher Li Ming, also predicted that you would take home the award. Is that true? This time, there are many seniors from the entertainment circle present and a number of them are your fans. They are even wearing your designs here to support you today. Do you have anything to say about that? David looked overbearing and confident in his straight posture. Facing the reporters surrounding him, he looked calm as he answered, "Every design is my heartfelt work. Naturally, I am confident about them. However, it is, after all, a competition, so we still need to leave it to the judges' evaluations. As for Teacher Li Ming, he is also a senior that I respect very much and I thank him for his compliments. And, of course, not forgetting all the love from the beautiful ladies." When they heard this, Ning Shi and Gong Xiangze didn't react but Han Momo exploded. Pfft. This person is so shameless. What heartfelt work? Whose heartfelt work is it really? When she was first hired, Han Momo did not know who Gong Xiangze was. It was only after she saw his designs that she thought they looked familiar. Due to the fact that plagiarizers were deemed the scum of all designers in the world of design, she could not help but harp on Gong Xiangze copying David's style and other malicious things. She started to look down on Gong Xiangze. Despite his assistant's negativity then, Gong Xiangze did not rebut at all and he continued to design from dawn till dusk. After interacting with him over some time, she slowly realized that something was not right. Gong Xiangze was practically designing with his life at stake. That did not seem like what a plagiarizer would have done. It was only after she bugged Ning Shi for a long time that she knew the ugly truth. No thanks to David, the doorway was blocked for over 10 minutes before the reporters finally dispersed to interview the other participants. Gong Xiangze was an unfamiliar face to the industry, plus he wore a mask since he was not feeling well that day, so naturally, no one paid him any attention. Nevertheless, the trio was happy to be left alone by the media vultures, and they immediately rushed backstage to get prepared. When Gong Xiangze passed by, David eyed his back suspiciously. However, he kept his gaze short and continued to chit-chat to the surrounding designers who were brown-nosing him. Backstage, models were busy getting dolled up and some even walked around in their underwear only. There were many male designers and assistants present, but everyone was already used to it. Because this was a new situation to Gong Xiangze, some distress rose in his eyes. However, when he started to turn his focus on the clothes the models paraded, his hawk eyes shone brightly. Wow, so many models with such amazing figures. Even a girl like myself is drooling. Han Momo swallowed, her head whipping about to catch everyone in their glory. At that moment, a bold model walked towards their direction in skyscraper heels and snapped, "Move it! Don't block the way!" The model who was getting changed in front of Gong Xiangze was shoved by her and her dress was about to be stepped on. It was a good thing that Ningxi was quick with her hands and feet. She grabbed the model by the waist and stabilized her as she wobbled. Not only would she have tripped, even the dress would have been ruined otherwise. "Hey! What's wrong with you? You almost ruined our dress." Han Momo was high-strung as she immediately pulled the offending model to a halt. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. The snobbish model looked at their outfit. Just a single glance was obvious that their design was close to David's. She instantly looked condescendingly at them and sneered, "Just a piece of junk that was so obviously ripped off. You'd best believe that I can disqualify you from the competition at the snap of my fingers. Move it!" Han Momo wanted to argue but then recognized her as the world-famous model, Angie. She was a familiar face in the industry and was closely connected to the organizers of the award. On an occasion such as today, insulting her was the last thing to do, so she could only purse her lips and suppress her anger. "Angie, dearest, come over quickly. It's time to change," someone called for her from afar. Angie immediately broke into a smile and walked over. "Oh my, Director David, this dress is unbelievably gorgeous. Isn't it? I told you so. You'll definitely love it." David clapped his hands in delight. I love it, all right. Only you can surprise me every time. No wonder even Teacher Lee said that the Golden Award will definitely be yours this time." Angie purred, then she looked over at Gong Xiangze and continued, "But the standards of the Golden Award is really deteriorating over the years. After all, how can a piece of work look like so similar to this too? Just now, someone wanted to pick a fight with me, but their dress was obviously a copy of your style. Way too funny." David adopted the attitude of an experienced professional and laughed generously, "Haha, the industry is like that, you'd best get used to it." Angie played around with the material of the outfit in her hand and fell deeper in love with it the more she looked at it. "Teacher David, you're amazing, every dress you create is so different. You were practically born to design. You deserve Teacher Lee's praises. You're always getting copied but no one can ever surpass you." The moment he saw the outfit in David's hands, Gong Xiangze instantly turned pale. "What's wrong, Director Gong?" Seeing Gong Xiangze not looking quite right, Han Momo quickly peered at him worriedly. Ningxi frowned. This David is really ruthless. He actually chose the same one. Gong Xiangze had mentioned that outfit to her before. She even remembered how thrilled and proud he looked when he mentioned that design. Gong Xiangze quavered as his hands trembled slightly. "That was a design from the peak of my inspiration and it was my most perfect work. The theme of it is life and there are 6 outfits from that series. David had just enough of them to use for this competition." Ningxi wanted to console him, but Gong Xiangze took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He consoled Ningxi instead, "Boss, the competition is about to start. You go out first, I'll come after." Seeing his calm confidence, Ningxi patted his shoulders. "Okay, call me if there's anything. Momo, you look after him well. If he's feeling sick or uncomfortable anywhere, immediately inform me." "Understood, Sis Shi. Even if Director bites me, I will be determined to report him to you." "Good, report all you want, Sis Shi will support you." Listening to the two of them, Gong Xiangzi looked helplessly at them, but in his cold-blooded bones, he felt a ripple of warmth. Follow the latest novels n/velbin.com. He carefully took out the outfit for the competition and his radiance beamed from his face. The competition was about to begin and the venue was bustling with anticipation. After the reporters had finished interviewing the participants, they clambered to interview the famous names from the industry. Recently, The World was heavily promoted to be showing in theaters soon. As the main female character, the probability of exposes and topics about Ning Xuelua was naturally very high. Plus, just as David was the predicted winner of the Golden Award, Ning Xuelua was the owner of history, so most of the reporters had surrounded her. "Miss Ning, how did you discover David? Could you share your story with us?" The reporters quickly asked what they thought would be the largest scoop for the public to feast on. Ning Xuelua smiled demurely and said, "If you really want to talk about being a good judge of talent, it's actually not me. My boyfriend first discovered David. It was only later on when I looked and decided that he was not too shabby, so after some discussion with him, we decided to invest." "That's actually such an interesting story. That means you and your boyfriend are really connected telepathically. Even both your judgments are spot on. The World has yet to be released, but there is already so much attention given to it. The box offices will definitely sell well then. In fact, we heard that The World will be nominated for quite a few prestigious awards." "Wow, Xuelua, you've got a fantastic harvest this year," one of the more familiar reporters complimented. "Ha ha ha, yeah, I've even thought in advance about the headline for when Xuelua wins the title." The reporters only went back to their seats when the host announced that the competition was going to begin. Ningxi was slightly further from the main sitting area, leaning in a corner. While the host started her opening script, she had closed her eyes to rest for a while when suddenly an annoying voice was heard. Isn't this Ningxi, the big star, Ningxi? Are you here to watch the competition too? Didn't you know that you need an entrance ticket for today? Be careful not to get chased out for crashing." The person who spoke was Li Yueling and she was holding on to Ning Xuelua's arm. Vexation from being disturbed flashed across Ningxi's lazy eyes and she slowly raised her gaze to look at Li Yueling, exaggerating with a shocked expression. "Miss Li, have you switched jobs to become part of security now?" Li Yueling was stunned, then she shouted angrily, "You're the one who's the security guard." Ningxi nodded like realization just dawned on her. "Oh, sorry. Turns out I'm being a busybody. I misunderstood. You." Li Yueling sputtered in indignation. Ning Xuelua reminded kindly, "Ningxi, Yueling is just being nice. All the seats are reserved, you can't simply sit anywhere you like." Ningxi just shut her eyes, weary to waste another second on these people. Li Yueling pulled Ning Xuelua away and walked towards the VIP seats. "Forget her, since she will be the one embarrassed and not us. I can't believe she would dare to come to a place like this. Does she even know what fashion is?" Ning Xuelua hesitated, maybe she really did receive an invite? Li Yueli immediately said with a convinced expression, "No way. Today's seats are hard to come by, even my mother only got it after begging from so many people. I almost couldn't accompany you here. Her relationship with Lu Jingli seems pretty good," Ning Xuelua said intentionally. Find updated evals on n/v/elben.co/m. Li Yueling's face stiffened. I don't think so. Otherwise, with Lu Jingli's capabilities, he could have definitely arranged a front-row VIP seat. Why would she sit in a nook like that? These kind of people are simply disgusting. She's everywhere. She scoffed. Okay, let's not talk about her anymore. Xuelua, when the award ceremony is over later, let's go straight to the Royal Jazz Hotel. I've already booked a room for you guys to celebrate. Ning Xuelua shot her an angry look. We still don't know if we'll win the award. Why don't you know? I've already asked around. Among the shortlisted works this time around, your designs are the most talked about one. The highest award must be yours. Then, she closed in towards Ning Xuelua's ear mysteriously and said softly, I've gotten my mom to inquire for you, the golden award this time is David's. Don't worry. Ning Xuelua's eyes gleamed when she heard this, but she was still humble. Best to talk after the results are out. As she said this, David took his seat too. Li Yueling immediately teased him, Hey, our talent is here. After winning the award this time, tons of people will try to hire you, won't they? Beauty Li, look at you. My boss is the reincarnation of my parents. Even if I had wings to fly to the sky, I would never leave the boss. David had always been an opportunist and his brown-nosing skills were top-notch. On the other side, Gong Xiangzi and the assistant sat beside Ning Shi. Everything settled? Gong Xiangzi nodded, he had done all he could. Now, he could only wait for the results. Very soon, the host's opening speech had ended and the competition officially began. On the T-shaped stage, after a round of the dazzling lights twinkling, the first participants' designs were paraded on stage. The screen displayed a lengthy paragraph by way of introduction. Yagyu, the winner of the 17th Chinese Fashion Golden Awards. Member of the Chinese Fashion Designer Association, member of the Art of Fashion Council, previously granted the titles of Outstanding Fashion Designer and Top 10 Best Fashion Designers. Yagyu's theme was the 12 Chinese zodiac's totem elements, catching the attention of everyone. However, after a short burst of admiration, everyone immediately sensed that they seemed very familiar. Pfft, even Yagyu is out of talented designers? This is obviously David's style. Since David made the Chinese style trendy, everyone started to follow suit with Chinese elements. It's so overdone. The point is that those people were intentional with their designs. Look closely and you will notice that they are all not outstanding, they completely missed David's natural flow and spontaneity. As Han Momo listened to the criticisms around her, she felt herself breaking out in cold sweat. Just impersonations were already abused like that. Wait till director Gong's designs came out. How harshly would they be criticized? The trio watched the other participating designs patiently and soon, it was finally their turn to display their pride and joy on stage. However, to their utter confusion, the next girl that strutted on stage was not their model but another participant's. What's happening? Ning Shi stared incredulously. Han Momo quickly said, getting to her feet, I'll go backstage to ask. Very soon, Han Momo returned with tears welling up and said between pants, the organizers said that we have been rearranged to be the last to go on. When I asked them why, they actually dared to tell me that going last will be even better since we can be the finale. But, the second from the last to be on stage is David. Our design is already very similar to theirs and now they have intentionally put us right after them. Forget about winning any award, we will definitely be criticized to ashes. They had no doubt that this move was probably executed by that model, Angie. That woman was notorious in the industry for being rude and unreasonable. One wrong move and she would stir trouble up for you. At last, it was Gong Xiangze who consoled them nonchalantly, "No problem, if my designs are really considered to be the work of plagiarism, the arrangement doesn't really matter anyway." The competition was based on points system on the spot. The 6 judges would total up an average score assigned to the design. Thus far, out of all the designs that had been presented, 5 of them had already received scores above 9. The competition was very tight among all of them and tension was high. Unfortunately for Yagyu, even though he had put in a lot of thought to his work, he only received 7 points. It was apparent that the judges did not really like his mere following of the trend. At that moment, the venue suddenly burst into a frenzy of whoops of admiration and the rapid clicking of cameras. It was David's turn to shine. Even Ningxi, Han Momo and Gong Xiangze himself were very fascinated by the models on stage. Of course, the most dazzling piece was worn by Angie. The long dress was loaded with flowers like the coming of spring, instantly giving the onlookers an energetic vibe. The vintage embroidery combined with modern dimensional tailoring worked to fuse the old and the new as well as the East and the West, successfully showing off the perfect merging of traditional culture and modern fashion. It also fully corresponded with the theme of life. With such an internationally acclaimed model as Angie, high-quality brocade material, and one of the finest silks in the world, the star piece stood out and dulled everything else. Ning Corporation sponsored the jewelry worn by the models and the bling on them only served to highlight how avant-garde the line was. David's entire line could only be described with one word: perfect. Every dress made the crowd have the urge to buy it on the spot. The female celebrities and socialites already started to get their connections to order the clothing from the series. Even though it was Gong Xiangze's design, Ningxi was aware that the more the designs were praised, the worse Gong Xiangze felt. Find updates on n/v/elbin.co/m. Just as she was about to console him, she saw a huge and frightening burn mark on his hand. She asked sternly, "What's wrong with your hand?" Gong Xiangze instantly shrunk. "Nothing, I was just not careful." "You were just checking the pieces. How could you carelessly burn your hand like this?" "Momo, what happened?" Ningxi turned to ask Momo with a threatening glare. Momo looked lost. She rambled, I don't know either. Just now, Director Gong said he had a little more to wrap up, so I came over to look for you first." "I don't know what happened either. Boss, it's really nothing." As they were talking, David's score was revealed. Han Momo looked at the score and was instantly filled with hopelessness. 9.9. "Director Gong, should I praise you? Do your designs have to be so good? There's been so many designs out already, but there has never been such a high score. The highest score was only 9.6. You're just too much." Ningxi did not know whether to laugh or cry. It seemed like being too talented was also a frustration. Gong Xiangze's work not only had a solid theme, it even included the appreciation of culture, making it perfect for a huge award like this. With such the team's strength and the best resources, it was no wonder the judges loved it. The applause in the venue was becoming increasingly thunderous and half of the people offered David and Ning Xuelua a standing ovation in between congratulations. All the reporters had also turned their cameras towards him, ready to shoot the scene of him going up the stage to accept the coveted award. David looked delighted as he stood up and thanked everyone, launching into humble courtesy words, "You all have held me in too high of a regard. This is the outcome of the entire team's efforts. Especially my boss, Miss Ning Xuelua. If not for her, there would not be the David you see today." Ning Xuelua smiled. "Don't be so humble, you are the soul and core of our studio." Now that David had snagged such a huge award, Ning Xuelua would naturally be kinder in order to make him stay and be loyal to her. Just as David rearranged his outfit and was ready to step out to receive his award, the host suddenly announced, "Everyone, please don't rush, we still have one last participant." What? There's one more? What's happening? Just give out the award already. Isn't this a waste of time? There's no choice. That's how competitions are. We're too impatient, let's just wait for the entire show to finish. The results are set after all, and I could use this time to prepare the content for the interview later. Find updates on n/v/elben.co/m. When he heard the host, David stopped mid-step to the stage and he looked slightly awkward. Then, he suddenly remembered that Angie had secretly told him that she moved the copycat to be the last. When he recalled this, he regained his good-natured expression and sat down again. When that participant's work appeared on stage, not only would it be a good opportunity to make him look better, he could also use the opportunity to shut down the other crazies who kept copying his trends, thus killing two birds with one stone. Ning Xuelua also did not seem rushed at all. After all, the award was already in the bag. The few participants who could be deemed any competition had already finished earlier, so what was left would just be a sideshow to elevate their performance. All the female celebrities and socialites present were cozying up to Ning Xuelua while the designers surrounded David and the cameras were solely focused on David. Even the judges had already started packing up and were preparing to leave. When the final participant's work came on stage, almost nobody paid it any attention. Gong Xiangzi did not seem very well, his fever had worsened while his breath began to come in ragged pants. The burn mark on his hand had not been treated either, probably because he kept hiding his pain. Ning Shi held him up as he was shaking unstably. "Hold on for a little while more, we can go home very soon." She had wanted Momo to bring him home immediately, but she knew very well that he would definitely want to see the final outcome. She had seen Gong Xiangzi's participating design and was blown away by it. If life had not been presented, he definitely would win the first place. But with life going up before them, not only would they not bag any awards, they would even fail horribly. With a loud zap, the bright lights that were meant to complement the theme of life previously suddenly dimmed down. The music also changed into a low and deep tune, which was almost depressing, making those who listened to it feel uncomfortable. Shortly after the prologue, the music suddenly turned into a high and the venue started to turn dark. The first model then stepped out. The classic red gown was elegant and bedazzling, as if what was worn on her was not a dress but a blood-red sun setting on the horizon. The details were a result of Gong Xiangzi's expertise with Chinese elements such as traditional embroidery and cloud motifs. Even though it was very attractive, when compared to David's luxurious design earlier, it was practically a wallflower, even making the crowd tired of evaluating the aesthetics. Everyone present just skimmed a look at it before scoffing. However, when the dress came into the brighter area and its entire look was revealed, everyone's gaze was fixed onto it. Even Ning Shi was shocked herself. How? Gong Xiangzi's designs that he had submitted were still his originals. They were sunset, aurora, cherry blossom, waves, snowy forest, and starry night sky. 6 types of dresses carrying elements of nature as the color palette, supplemented by Chinese traditional techniques. However, what was special was that every dress had different degrees of burns. The trace of burns did not look like flaws. In fact, it unexpectedly displayed an unusually special decadent elegance, instantly stealing everyone's attention. After a while, everyone finally regained their senses and started clapping. The odd photographers used their keen skills and quickly aimed their cameras towards the stage. Oh, wow! Burn marks. The ones on that red dress are so beautiful. It gives me the feeling of a princess who is lonely but remains elegant. That sea blue mermaid dress is so gorgeous too. The tail has been burnt to almost nothing, but it's tragically beautiful. Makes me think of the tale of the Little Mermaid princess. So unique. But how did they think of this? More and more people started looking towards the stage, every one of them astonished. After a while, the screen flickered with the theme of the participating work, Nirvana. Brilliant! Too brilliant! One of the judges immediately stood up emotionally, holding his hand to his chest and tears welling up in his eyes. It is indeed a wonderful idea. It's been so long since we've seen such spirited work. Haha, this newbie's got guts. But I like it. Because of the way it was presented, everyone's attention was focused on how brilliant the theme was and no one noticed the Chinese elements. Ningxi was moved beyond words. No wonder Gong Xiangzi's hand was burnt, he had actually. How much determination did he need to personally burn his hard work of more than half a month? Giving it life after death was deserving of the meaning of the designs and its new theme, Nirvana Reincarnated. The host of the award ceremony came from a fashion design background. He stared at the last design for a long time before regaining his senses and remembering he had a job to do. He lightly coughed and said, "Up next, let's see the scores from our judges." One after another, the judges raised their scoreboards. The first judge, 10 points. The second judge, 10 points. The third judge, 10 points. There were 5 10 points in a row. Finally, it came to the last judge, Chu Guanyang, who had the reputation of being a picky Chinese designer. Earlier for David's work, he had given the lowest score. He had been a judge for the past 8 events and was famous for being stringent. He had never once given a full score. At that moment, everyone's gaze was fixed on Chu Guanyang's hand. Ariad updated stirise at n/vel/bin.com. After a torturous wait, he slowly revealed his scoreboard, 10 points. 10 points. Our final contestant's score is a full 10 points. Oh my god! It really is 10 points. This is amazing! Even our strictest judge, Teacher Chu, gave full marks. This is unexpected. A dark horse has appeared at the end of our competition. The host was really excited. Han Momo screamed from her seat and hugged Gong Xiangzi tightly. 10 points. It's 10 points. Wow. This is unbelievable. Director Gong, you're really amazing. I'm going to be a die-hard fan of yours from now on. Ningxi gave Gong Xiangzi a pat on his shoulder, beaming impressed. My baby Zay is awesome. After numerous rounds of fierce competition, our Golden Award winner has emerged. Now, we'd like to invite our last contestant, Mr. X, to come up to the stage and receive the prize. That's right, this contestant used an anonymous name to enter and I'm really curious who this mysterious contestant is. The host was very experienced at stirring up the crowd and already started creating a hot topic for everyone to gossip about. Everyone at the scene started to return to their senses. Wow! What's happening? Who's X? Where did he come from? Who knows, the screen only says the design director from Spirit Studio and nothing else, not even his real name. Spirit Studio? Who's the owner? I've never heard of it before. The competition allowed anonymous entries and many people used pseudonyms as well. Ningxi did not really delve further into it when Gong Xiangzi mentioned that he wanted to use a pseudonym for his entry. She let him decide, thinking that he probably wanted to only announce himself after he became successful, which was understandable. X. Han Momo thought for a while, then she realized in excitement. Wow. X. Sis Shi, it's your initial, isn't it? Huh? My initial? Ningxi did not think about it at all. Gong Xiangzi nodded shyly. Oh dear, My little baby is such a sweetheart. Ning Shi was genuinely touched. Up to TED Chapters nnvelben.com. The moment the score was up, David stood up with his mouth quirking in fury, his veins visibly bulging out on his forehead. He was staring straight at the 6 dresses, and as he zoomed into the tiny details on the dresses carefully, his eyes were filled with fear. These designs were so familiar, especially how the details were handled. X. Could it be? No. Impossible. Gong Xiangzi knew nothing aside from design, so he could not have possibly survived by himself. He did not even have a penny on him when he left. He was probably chased out by the landlord and begging on the streets by now, so how could he be back here participating in the Golden Award? Plus, he was a design major and would never do something as shady as this. How could it be? David lost. Li Yueling exclaimed in shock. It was just some outlandish work. David clenched his teeth in irate anger. Ning Xuelua did not care about the designs at all. She was only concerned about the results. She was embarrassed and glared at David coldly. Didn't you say there wouldn't be any problems? How could you lose to a nobody? David clenched his teeth and hid his panic. I'll handle this, Ms. Ning, don't worry. He then signaled to a few people in the crowd. The few designers who had been relying on David's resources understood what he meant and they started to complain. Objection. So one can win an award by plagiarizing another's design and burning it? Isn't it too easy? That's right. Anyone here could burn some clothes. Shouldn't everyone get a prize then? That was just some outlandish design. After the string of complaints was released, the other designers could not keep it down anymore. They might still be all right if they were to lose to David, but it was harsh on their pride to lose to a newbie and they started to suspect the competition's fairness. What are the judges doing? Were they bribed? I'm disappointed. I didn't think Xu Guanyang would stoop this low as well. We want a rematch. The host was at a loss. He tried to calm the audience down but failed awkwardly. Following David's planting of the complaints, chaos ensued. A few judges panicked and looked at Xu Guanyang. Teacher Chu, what do you think we should do? Should we reassess the designs? We were really surprised just now, but now that I look at it, awarding a full 10 points doesn't really seem appropriate. That's right, David has a big influence in the industry and it might affect this award's reputation if we handle this badly. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. Xu Guanyang sneered at them, are you guys okay? Who are the judges, us or them? If all of them were experts, then why are we needed here? And why are you guys even sitting up here? Just a few words are enough to change your decision. What kind of judge are you? The few judges were embarrassed and stopped talking. Later, Xu Guanyang picked up the microphone. Well, it seems like someone's questioning my judgment. That's because you're being really unfair this time. This is obviously plagiarism. Some random burning isn't enough to cover it up, someone from the crowd expressed, full of rage. Xu Guanyang looked at the crowd coldly and declared expressionlessly, firstly, all of you have been talking about plagiarism, but what's the definition of plagiarism? Chinese trends, traditional elements, anyone can come up with these. This is a publicly available theme, not an exclusive design. It's based on one's capabilities to make it look exceptional. Secondly, can all of you burn it too? Did any of you think about it? Who thought about it? What did you do? Why didn't you do it before if you have thought about it? Xu Guanyang's question rendered the designers speechless. They realized they were being unreasonable. While it was true that anyone could do it, it was difficult to come up with the idea and execute it, which was why it caught everyone by surprise. Even if you say so, based on overall abilities, that Anonymous X is nowhere near David, someone yelled out, still not convinced. Chu Guanyang used an even harsher tone and stared coldly into the crowd. As designers, all of you don't understand what you are doing. What is the purpose of this award? Chu Guanyang had a powerful aura and the crowd murmured quietly, fashion design. That's right, it's an award for fashion design. The most important part of this award isn't about the model, the materials, or the skills. It comes down to ideas and creativity. The Golden Award selects the best designer, not the best model, the most expensive materials, or the most famous designer. If it were based on those criteria, anyone can become a designer. Why would all of you be needed? As decoration? Chu Guanyang was really sharp-tongued, he did not hold back at all. Everyone could not look at him straight in the eye. He then stared at David's direction and loudly stated, "The Golden Award has been organized for the 23rd year in a row. Our processes are transparent and will not be affected by any third parties. It was like this in the past, it is how it is now and how it will be continued in the future. We detest those who try to manipulate the results. Anyone is welcome to oversee our judging process." His words were clearly meant to criticize David's behavior for attempting to change the results using his power and network. Anyone could easily imagine that a new designer from an unknown studio could not possibly bribe all 6 judges, while David was forcing the judges to change the result in his favor. Suddenly, the other contestants and photographers saw the sense in what Chu Guanyang was saying. They all looked at David critically. Read lat stchers on n/v/l/b.i.cm. Chu Guanyang is right. The designers who were voicing out their opinions just now were trying to look for trouble. Even laymen like us were surprised. How could you say the design was bad? I've always felt that David was too arrogant. What's wrong with following the Chinese trend? Even if it was trending because of him, he was not the first one to create it. It's just as Teacher Chu said, anyone can do it. He made it sound like he invented it and anyone who follows is plagiarizing him. The award he expected to fall into his lap just disappeared. Of course, he'd panic. Do you know how much this award can bring to him? It makes sense. Most of the awards are so superficial nowadays, but Golden Award is one of the more prestigious ones. After Chu Guanyang spoke up, the other judges who panicked from the uproar started to calm down. They then explained their reasoning behind the score they assigned and a unanimous conclusion was made. With that, all of us decided that this Golden Award goes to Designer X from Spirit Studio. A thunderous round of applause roared throughout the venue. Some of the invited female celebrities were really excited. The fashion industry was used to quick changes. As soon as a fresh new design was presented, it instantly caught their attention and everyone would want to get their hands on a piece of it. The celebrities who were gathering around Ning Xuelua just now were now waiting to see who this mysterious designer was. The host cleared his throat and invited, "Now, we'll have Designer X to come up onto the stage." The female host was smiling with the trophy in her hands, expecting the designer to be a tall, handsome man. At that moment, everyone was looking around, curious to see who this dark horse was. Especially David, who could not suppress his abhorrence towards the winner. Who was it? It was impossible that he did not know such a person within the industry. When everyone was expecting Designer X to go on stage, something happened. Gong Shangzi passed out. He was already suffering from a fever before, toughing it out, then he could not take it anymore. The host was urging for the mysterious designer to go on stage. Han Momo panicked. What to do now, Sis Shi? Ningxi touched Gong Xiangzi's burning forehead and helped him to lean on her shoulder. I'll bring him to the hospital. You take the prize for him. Huh? Me? Han Momo was shocked, her jaw left hanging. In the end, Han Momo hopped up the stage like a bunny, almost tripping from her nervousness and outdoing everyone's expectations. And her outfit today. She wore a Lolita-style dress and looked like a cute Japanese doll. Explore Tati stories at no/l//bin.cm. What the heck? Nirvana Reincarnated's designer is a little girl? This doesn't make sense. Such a grand style. Even if it's not a man, might as well be a grown woman. Is she even legal yet? You're Nirvana Reincarnated's designer, X, the host asked in surprise. Chu Guanyang raised his eyebrows and touched his chin to ask, are you here in someone else's stead? His instinct from his experience in the industry told him that she was not the designer for Nirvana Reincarnated. Han Momo nodded and bowed to the audience politely. Everyone, I'm sorry, X isn't able to come today because he is not feeling well. I'm his assistant and I'm here to receive the prize in his stead. Now that made sense. As everyone let out a sigh of relief, the mystery shrouding X intensified. The competition evening finally came to an end. Han Momo carefully held the trophy and sneaked out even before the journalists could come to her. All the attention was shifted to David and Ning Xuelua. Ms. Ning, history lost this time. Do you have anything to say? Was Chu Guanyang implying that you're trying to manipulate the competition's result? Director David, you've lost to someone even with your best design. How do you feel? David looked really unwell and he did not know what to answer. Ning Xuelua's phone had been ringing non-stop after the competition results were out. They had lost a few $1 million in just a few minutes after some big customers canceled their reservations. The worst thing was that the unknown Spirit Studio could end up as their biggest competitor. David knew that things were bad just by looking at Ning Xuelua's expression. Miss, it's just a local award. It's nothing. Nothing? In just a few minutes, we've lost $5 million. Most importantly, how could she face everyone? People said she had good taste and had a treasure in her hands. Now, she did not win the prize and was even accused of controlling the competition results. David cursed internally. $5 million, so what? Remember how much we earned before. But he still spoke carefully, Ms. Ning, please believe me. The effect is just temporary, that designer has a similar style to mine, but we've already dominated the market. He can never take away our customers. He'd better not. The next day, all the headlines in fashion news were about the dark horse that won the Golden Award. They brutally described David's awkward walk of shame and featured a picture of him getting up from his seat preparing to go up on stage for the prize. As always, the news was much more dramatic than your average gossip. New designer X storms Golden Award, a young girl? David defeated the end of his era? Dark horse in the Golden Award, snatching the limelight. Who's behind the Spirit Studio? At Platinum Palace. It was the weekend and Lu Tingxiao was taking a day off. Ningxi had promised to bring little treasure to the theme park and he was up early, packing. Lu Jingli was still in his pajamas, but he was already waving the newspaper in front of his brother. Bro. Look! Gong Xiangzi actually won the Golden Award. And with full marks. He totally dominated David. Sister-in-law is too powerful. She picked up a genius. Lu Tingxiao sipped his tea calmly, looking like he already knew. But what does the pseudonym X mean? Is it anything special? Gong, Sheng, Zhe, none of his initials is an X. Lu Jingli thought about it and then it dawned on him. Ning oh. Lu Jingli carefully glanced at his brother, quickly commenting, "This guy is really loyal," using his boss initial as the name. As they were talking, Butler Yuan escorted Ning Shi in. Lu Jingli stared at Ning Shi. "Xiao Shi, you're here. You're really dirty-minded." Ning Shi scowled at him. "What's wrong with you? How am I dirty-minded?" Lu Jingli pointed his fingers at the 6 dresses on the newspaper. "Your design theme." Ning Shi rolled her eyes at him. "What are you talking about? Rebirth from the fire, it's such a positive theme." Lu Jingli gave her a suggestive look and said, "But I can only think of one thing." "What did you think of?" Ning Shi was not expecting anything good to come out of his mouth. Lu Jingli replied seriously, "Woman, you're playing with fire." Ning Shi was annoyed. She could not stand him anymore. "You're the dirty-minded one." She ignored him and went to Lu Tingxiao. "Boss, where's Little Treasure?" Read latest OVLS at nv/e/l/buy.com. Little Treasure ran out as soon as he heard Ning Shi's voice. Ning Shi lifted him up. "Are you ready?" Little Treasure patted his bag, signaling that he was more than ready to go. "All right, then we'll go now." Ning Shi was traveling out of the country for a roadshow tomorrow. One of the areas she would be going to was America, and she planned to go Philadelphia then to meet YS. Before she left, she wanted to have fun with Little Treasure. "It's a weekend and there'll be a lot of people. Be careful," Lu Tingxiao reminded them from the sofa. Ning Shi held Little Treasure up and blinked. "Boss, aren't you not coming with us?" Lu Tingxiao was surprised and he looked up from his documents. "You want me to go?" Usually, he would not disturb them when Ning Shi brought Little Treasure out since he thought that they might not have as much fun if they were with him, so he did not expect Ning Shi to ask him. Ning Shi nodded honestly. "Yeah." But then, she remembered something. "Oh, there'll be quite a lot of people and it's pretty childish." "Boss, if you don't like it, then..." "I like it." Lu Tingxiao put down his documents instantly, standing up to take his coat from the hanger. Ning Shi's eyes shone. She had been afraid that Lu Tingxiao might not go and did not expect him to agree so easily. Little Treasure was a little closer to Lu Tingxiao now, so he was quite pleased to know that his father was going together. His eyes were gleaming with excitement. This was the first time he was going out with both Auntie Xiaoxi and father together. Looking at the happy family, a dead fish lay on the sofa in despair. "Leaving me all alone again." Ning Shi patted Lu Jingli's head. "Be good and stay at home, I'll bring you back some candy." "Humph. Do you think I'm some kid?" "I don't want candy." Lu Jingli looked upset. "I want cotton candy. The rainbow-colored one." Ning Shi was speechless. The 3 of them reached the theme park by car. Because there would be a grand firework display happening at night, there were a lot of people today, mostly families and couples. "I'll hold Little Treasure," Lu Tingxiao said. Ning Shi was worried that Little Treasure might get squished in her arms, so she handed him over, "Okay." Lu Tingxiao held Little Treasure in one hand and guided Ning Shi's shoulder with another as they walked towards one of the attractions together. Lu Tingxiao liked the quiet. He hated this kind of environment with crowds, but he was not showing his discomfort at all. He accompanied Ning Shi and Little Treasure patiently the whole day, even cooperating and taking a lot of selfies with them. To Ning Shi's delight, he set one of it as his phone wallpaper. As the night fell, Lu Tingxiao had Little Treasure's bag on his back with a few zodiac masks hanging on his neck. In one hand were a few packets of snacks, while the other was holding the cotton candy Lu Jingli asked for. He followed them around without any complaints at all. Quick! Lu Tingxiao, let's go there. The firework display is going to start soon. Ningxi held Little Treasure's hand and ran in front, but she came back after a while and clung onto Lu Tingxiao's arm. Lu Tingxiao looked at her in surprise. It was as if they were really a family. Finally, the fireworks show started. A bright light rose up from the horizon and exploded in the air with a boom, and the sky was beautifully lit up. Explore Tati stories at no/l/bin.cm. Numerous fireworks started popping. During the fireworks show, Ningxi turned her head towards the man standing beside her, looking at his side profile, which was illuminated by the fireworks. Lu Tingxiao noticed her gaze and turned to her. Ningxi opened her mouth and said something, but the sound of the fireworks was too loud for him to hear anything, so he gave her a confused look. Under the sky full of fireworks, she closed in and said it again. She repeated her words, although she knew he would not be able to hear it. Lu Tingxiao, I like you. At night. After he had sent Ningxi and Little Treasure back to the Regal Riviera Hotel, Lu Tingxiao did not go home right away. He called Lu Jingli and asked him to meet at a bar instead. Bro, you asked me out to a bar. I thought I was hallucinating. Under the dim light, Lu Tingxiao's face was hidden in the shadows. There was a long silence before he spoke up. Is it possible? Possible? For? Lu Jingli was confused. Ningxi might have fallen for someone else, Lu Tingxiao said. Lu Jingli opened his eyes wide. Huh? Who? Me. Lu Jingli almost spat out the drink he just gulped. Why do you think so? Feels like it. Lu Jingli scratched his head. Bro, did something happen today? There was a thick knot in between Lu Tingxiao's brows. It seems like she said, she likes me. What? Xiao Shi said she likes you? Lu Jingli recovered from his excitement after a while. Wait, why did you say seems like? During the fireworks show in the theme park, she said something to me, but it was too loud and I couldn't hear anything. Lu Tingxiao frowned, as if trying very hard to remember. Lu Jingli returned to his excited mode again. But you know how to read lips. So, you understood? Reading lips isn't always 100% accurate, and the environment made it hard to focus. Most importantly, it just did not seem possible. He did not even notice the first time. When she said it the second time as she closed in on him, he did not really read her lips properly as well. He had just glanced a little, not daring to jump to conclusions. What made him suspicious was not what she said, but her eyes when she said it. Explore Tati stories at no/l/bin.cm. Her eyes at that moment were so beautiful, as if they were speaking directly to his heart. From her eyes, he saw something he had never thought about before. Bro, why don't you test Xiaoxishi after she returns? It was a rare occasion that Lu Tingxiao agreed with Lu Jingli's suggestion. He himself wanted to know the answer as well. The next day after they returned from the theme park, Ningxi took an early morning flight out of the country. After several days of promoting the movie, she and the crew finally reached their last stop, Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. Because it was not one of the featured cities, most of the crew did not want to go as they were tired from the previous venues. The only actress with slightly more scenes in the movie who was willing to go was Ningxi, and Guiqixing was genuinely touched. She worked diligently without any complaints and was never one to snatch the limelight. He even had Ningxi in mind for a new movie the following year and would like to have her as the main protagonist. For some reason, Jiang Mai decided to attend this last day of promotion since he only appeared at 1 or 2 events for the past few days. He slept through the whole flight. As he took off his sleeping mask, he saw Ningxi was reading a script under a dim light and was speechless. Ning Xiaoxi, what's wrong with you? Why are you working so hard? Ningxi realized that they were going to take off soon, so she put her script away and glanced at Jiang Mai. How will I support Lu Tingxiao if I don't work hard now? Jiang Mai was once again speechless. She wanted to provide for Lu Tingxiao? Was that not too difficult a goal? Jiang Mai ignored his thoughts and mumbled, then wouldn't my uncle have to wait until the day he dies? Shut up. Stop jinxing me. I'm telling the truth. It might still be possible to provide for me though. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. I like to challenge the impossible. Jiang Mai felt his heart ache when he looked at the girl as he knew she was being serious this time. He thought that she had already given up, but he had underestimated her. From the cowardly little girl she was, she now chose to be by his side. He had always thought that this girl was heartless. Now, he understood that she was not heartless, it was just not meant for him. Jiang Mai suppressed his feelings and he gave her a pat on the shoulder. Do you want to go for a drink tonight? The best nightclubs in the world are in DC. The United States had a wide social divide. There were extremely rich places like DC, but there were ghost towns like Philadelphia too. I know you'll have other intentions. Ningxi stared at him despicably. No, I want to sleep. Tomorrow was the promised day to meet YS and she needed to prepare herself. The crew was leaving tomorrow afternoon. After some rest tonight, she would go to Philadelphia to meet YS early in the morning, then she would be back by the time the crew had to leave. Ning Xiaoxi, what's wrong with you? You're not even with him yet and you're avoiding nightclubs already. Ningxi shook her head. Those who don't have someone they like would never understand. How do you know that I don't have someone I like? Ah, there is someone? Who? A bastard. Perfect, a brat like you would need a bastard to hold you down. You. After the roadshow ended for the day, the whole crew went out to have fun. Ningxi declined their invitation and went back to the hotel to sleep. At 5 a.m. in the morning, the alarm rang. Ningxi opened her eyes, picked up her bag and went on her way to Philadelphia. On the outskirts of Philadelphia, she went to a restaurant for breakfast, then changed her outfit in the washroom. By the time she came out, she was dressed in a male outfit. First Brother Senior had told her that their meeting point was one of their spots, an underground casino in the center of Philadelphia. She was familiar with Philadelphia because she had stayed here for a year before, but riots happened frequently here and most of the buildings were rebuilt, causing her to lose her bearings. After a long while, she finally recognized some of the landmarks. Due to the government's effort, there were a lot of patrolling police cars on the street. The city looked much better than before without fights breaking out in the daytime. What Ningxi did not know was that she was being watched the moment she had stepped into the States. Boss, that woman has reached Philadelphia. Really? On a leather sofa, a blond man with blue eyes seemed to be tucking his long hair under his ear, but there was nothing there. Both his ears were sliced off. It's true, I was worried that we might not be able to do anything in DC, but some of our men saw her exit the hotel and come to Philadelphia. She's even changed into a male outfit and we almost couldn't recognize her. But this proves one thing. As he spoke, he put down 2 pictures on the table. Ningxi, Tangxi. Both of them are the same person. But why isn't she with Satan? She also used another identity and stayed beside Lu Tingxiao. Interesting. Augustine touched his chin. Do you want me to check it out? His henchman asked. Augustine waved his hand impatiently. Nope, it doesn't matter, she's going to die here, today. The henchman was shocked. Boss, you want to, she has ties with Satan. Because of her, Satan even had Tang Yi. Shut up. Augustine felt a burning pain at the spot. His ears were sliced off as he felt humiliated and ordered them angrily, "You dare defy my orders?" No, sir. Get her alive. I'll let them see how I'll torture this woman to death. The man's eyes were filled with bloodlust. Had it not been for this woman, his plan would not have failed and he would not have gotten himself into this situation without any alliance and any weapons. They cared a lot about this woman and they would now taste the price of humiliating him. Get the L-test VLS at .o/v/e/l/buy.co. The henchman was really bothered and he reminded Augustine again, if Satan finds out about this. Augustine sneered, that piece of crap is now hiding in the Straits of Malacca. By the time he finds out, the woman's body would already be rotting. Moreover, there will be people here to get us out tomorrow, so what are you afraid of? Don't you want to get revenge for Phiro and Alice? The henchman clenched his teeth. Okay. I'll bring more men over. That woman seems like a big trouble to deal with. Augustine pushed the scantily clad girl out of his arms. Wait, I'll go myself. After Ningxi was clear of her direction, she did not go to the casino immediately, dodging into a small discreet shop instead. Sir, get me a Glock 17. She was not able to get the P226 Liu Tingxiao had given her through the customs, so she could only buy one here to defend herself. She did not feel secure enough to walk around here without a gun. In the shop, a fat man was cleaning a pile of bullets and he did not even bother to raise his head. We don't deal with fresh customers. Sir, are you sure that I'm fresh? Ningxi looked at him with a grin. The owner raised his head impatiently. After he realized who it was, his jowls trembling and the bullets in his hands fell onto the floor. He then crawled under the table and asked, Didn't you leave? Why are you back? He quickly looked behind her to see if there was anyone else. Ningxi knew what he was looking at. This small little shop was one of the largest underground trading grounds. There were a lot of interesting items here, not just weapons but also ancient medicine. She used to come here with second senior brother just to take items away from here. The owner would always get a headache whenever he saw them. Take whatever you want, the owner urged her quickly, not wanting her to stay any longer. Ningxi walked around and picked up a gun herself. How much is it? No. I don't want your money. Just go. Ningxi said unhappily, I can't do that, I'm a decent person now. The owner was on the verge of crying. My lord, what do you want? Ningxi looked innocently at him. I want to pay. The owner did not dare to take her money and wrung his hands. I don't want it. I really don't want it. Ningxi's temper flared. Damn it! I said I want to pay. I'll punch you. He was breaking her life principles. After a long while, the owner gave her a price and she paid the money, leaving satisfied. The owner looked at the money on the table and trembled. He did not expect that she would really pay. Fortunately, Ningxi saw a taxi after she came out of the shop and flagged it down to take a ride straight to her destination. She closed her eyes and rested for a little, then she heard a loud bang from the back of the car. Something had hit the car from the back very hard. People living in Philadelphia mostly had great instincts for trouble. The driver reacted quickly and ran away, abandoning his taxi after realizing something was not right. Ningxi quickly followed and went out of the car. She thought that it was some riot or robbery happening, but she knew it was something more when 4 men came out from the car which had hit the taxi and surrounded her, all pointing their guns at her. FIDDEU UPTS on NOV/E/LN.com. It was a life-threatening situation. Ningxi instinctively reached her hand to the gun on her hips. What happened? They were here for her. She had never seen these fair-skinned men before, and she did not remember causing any trouble on her way here. There was no way they could be her old enemies, since none of them would dare to attack her in the day. Put down your gun. The leader, wearing a black sleeveless shirt, looked at her with scorn and snapped, quickly. The man seemed to know that she had a good aim and he was being wary of her gun. He then released a shot near her foot as a warning. The other 3 men stared at her carefully, watching for any sudden movements. Bang! Dust rose from the ground beside Ningxi's foot. Ningxi understood that she was at a total disadvantage and she had no means to counter, so she clenched her teeth and tossed her gun away. The leader let out a short sigh of relief, then he put up a ferocious expression. You witch, you killed my brothers. I'm going to take revenge for them today. I killed your brothers? Who are they? Are you mistaken? Ningxi was confused and tried to get them to talk more, so she could assess the environment nearby. The man flew into a rage. Stop talking. Raise your hands and come over slowly. Suddenly, Ningxi saw a police car pass by and she felt really glad. No matter how fearsome these people were, they would not dare to oppose the police. As she was about to call for help, the police car came straight to them. The police in uniform walked over with a smile and acted really pally with the leader. What's going on, man? Not much, just some personal matter. Please help me to look out and not let anyone come near here. We don't want to hurt anyone innocent. Sure, no problem. Ningxi looked at the police car in dismay as it went away. Not only was she not saved, but her escape route was also sealed off. Damn it, it seemed like these people were pretty influential. The leader was impatient. Since he thought she had no means of attacking now, he signaled for his men to grab her. As they moved, 3 gunshots were fired. Bang, bang, bang. 3 men went down in just a second. The leader looked at his men, his expression turning pale. He saw Ningxi was holding a gun with smoke coming out of it and she was now aiming at his head. Didn't you throw your gun away? The man looked at the gun on the floor in disbelief. It was still lying there. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by .com. Ningxi rolled her eyes like she was looking at an idiot. Who told you I only had 1 gun? She had bought 2. The leader was infuriated and cursed, F***CK. You cunning Asian. You're just too stupid, Ningxi sneered at him. Who do you think is faster, you or I? The man's hand was trembling and sweat started to fall from his brow. He would not have been afraid if she was an average woman, but now he knew that this was Tang Shi. Rumor had it that she had the best gunmanship among the people around Satan. She took advantage of the stress the man was going through and fired a shot when she had the chance. Bang! The man reacted swiftly. He avoided his vitals being shot at and was hit on his shoulder instead, his gun clattering onto the floor. That was good enough for her to escape. She did not want to stay there any longer and just wanted to leave. Suddenly, there was the sound of many footsteps pattering. Dozens and dozens of armed men surrounded her. The leader who was shot was smugly grinning at ease now as he respectfully walked towards a blond man with blue eyes and addressed, "Boss." The blue-eyed man looked like the leader of everyone here. He expressionlessly glanced at the 3 bodies and his injured henchmen. The man had fair skin and a tall nose, blue eyes and long blonde hair, but his ears looked a little weird. A breeze blew and Ningxi saw it clearly. The man had no ears. The man then looked at the helpless Ningxi, giving her a creepy look. He used a tone matching his twisted expression and taunted, "Run, why don't you continue running? Don't you Chinese have a saying? You don't follow the path to the heavens, yet you barge into the doorless hell." Ningxi cursed at herself while looking at all the men around her. What was wrong with them? Did they prepare these many men just to catch her? Did they think that they were fighting a mob boss or something? Philadelphia was their old spot, but their main forces were moved to some other city. It seemed like this place was now controlled by this blonde man with blue eyes. She was now like a rat in a trap with no means to escape. What could she do? As she was thinking, the blonde man advanced towards her slowly and looked at her suggestively. "So, you're Satan's woman?" When she heard what he said, only one word appeared in her mind: sheet. She was just a nobody. How could she attract all these people on her own? Now, the culprit was clear. "No." Ningxi replied instantly. Your F48 stories on /o/v/lbn.cm. The man gave her a cold smile and pinched her chin. "No? He broke off our alliance all because of you. My ears are gone because of his man Tang Yi as well." This man's ears were sliced by first senior brother? After hearing the man's bitter words, Ningxi got an idea of what was happening. She remembered the last time she was here when she encountered the people in the abandoned arsenal when she was looking for Lu Tingxiao. From Annie's message, she knew that these people were in an alliance with the organization, but the relationship had been destroyed because of this incident. After Ningxi realized what had happened, she had a more serious expression on her face. If what she thought was true, she was going to end up dead here. It was no use denying her relationship with Satan here. She had killed this man's underling and he would never let her go. That guy's woman, huh? I'd like to have a taste. The earless man dragged his finger down her neck and rubbed her skin suggestively, making Ningxi disgusted. With a flash of reflected light, the man used a dagger and sliced through Ningxi's shirt from the top of her collar. Ningxi's coat and inner shirt were cut through and her fair skin was exposed. This looming view was even more seductive than her being nude, and all the men stared at her passionately. Ningxi knew what they were thinking just by looking at them. She was surrounded, her only gun had been taken away from her and she had no means of protecting herself. She would end up dead anyway, so she might as well try. As the men were staring at her distractedly, she kicked the man's groin. Bang! A bullet went straight into her thigh and she cried out in pain. She had reacted quickly enough and avoided it from entering her vitals. The man covered his attacked groin, embarrassed. "You really have a death wish." All the guns were aimed at her right now. She would be dead the moment the man gave his signal. Ningxi looked at them coldly. Yes, she would rather die. The man realized what she was thinking and he grabbed her by her hair, snarling, "You're not going to die so easily." The whole of Philadelphia was already under his control. He was king here. While Satan might not be able to get here because of the trouble he was having right now, even if he did come, he would end up dead here as well. No one could ever hope to help this woman escape. The man's gaze made Ningxi uneasy, on top of the disgust and contempt she felt from his suggestive looks. Some cars passed by and the drivers looked to see what was happening as the road had been blocked, but their faces all went pale after realizing what was happening. Out of fear, they ignored Ningxi's signal for help and zoomed off as quickly as they could. After her signals for help failed several times, Ningxi gave up on expecting any passerby to save her. "Are you still expecting someone to come and save you?" mocked the man, looking at Ningxi like his prey with a sardonic smile. "The whole of Philadelphia is now under our control, so you'd better give up now. Any hope you have now will just add to your despair later on," the man told Ningxi with a smirk on his face. Since her wish to live was being snuffed out, it was easy for her to seek death. Tens of guns aimed at Ningxi, and she morbidly imagined the numerous holes which would riddle her body the moment the man gave his signal. The man was relaxed like a cat that caught the mouse. Ningxi was an easy prey in his hands, one he would only eat after getting bored of playing with. "Little girl, rest assured that we won't kill you soon. We will only torture you to death after we're done having fun with you. For now, our game has just begun." Ningxi did not express any fear and acted exceptionally calm, making the man unhappy. He wanted to see Ningxi beg him for forgiveness. Suddenly, Ningxi mustered up her strength and struggled to break free of the man's grip. She shoved him and then ran away, limping. Ningxi's thigh had been shot, so she ran slower than she wished she could, and blood was oozing out of her wound. Bang! Another gunshot was fired from behind her, the bullet ricocheting off the ground in front of Ningxi, creating a powder storm of rocks and sand. Ningxi clenched her teeth and powered through as if she was not afraid of death. The man used his right hand to hold the gun, which was still emitting smoke, as he said sourly, "Who gave you permission to shoot? There's no fun playing with a dead mouse. Plus, I have a lot of time today." UW Ovals up Tez on NOV/L/BI.com. "Boss, I understand. My bad." The henchman who fired the shot just now nodded fearfully. As they watched the woman's stumbling silhouette get away, the man patiently called after her, "Little girl, run. It's more fun that way. How exciting!" Ha 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 ha. The man's ear-piercing maniacal cackle haunted Ningxi, echoing in the air. Sometime later, Ningxi's right leg was becoming numb and she slowed down even more. She turned to look over her shoulder and could not see any of them anymore. Night soon fell. Stars blanketed the sky and the moon shone brightly. Ningxi simply bandaged her leg with a strip of her shirt, and she had painstakingly removed the bullet by herself, but the pain remained. It was much more bearable now though, compared to before. At least, her leg would still be functional after this. Ningxi laughed bitterly at herself. Here she was, still worrying if her leg would be functional when she did not even know if she could get out of Philadelphia alive. She actually knew what was going to happen to her but did not want to admit it. She already felt in her bones that something bad was going to happen, but this was 100 times worse than what she expected. How did her romantic misfortune turn into a death trap? Only people who gave up on worldly desires had no fear of death, but now, she was afraid. Afraid that she would die. She missed Little Treasure and Boss as well. Ningxi took a deep breath and hugged herself. It was a chilly winter night in Philadelphia. Ningxi looked helpless and lonely, but she still had a determined expression on her face. That man acted as the ruler of Philadelphia, thinking that nothing could escape him. He viewed her as a scared rat while he was the cat, even letting her go on purpose. She knew that even though she had escaped for now, her life was still on the line. She could not stop and rest on her laurels just yet. Ningxi endured her fatigue and gnawing hunger and forced herself to keep moving forward. She thought about reporting the incident to the police, but that man apparently had ties with the Philadelphia Police Department, so she had to act carefully. No matter whether she was a rat or not, she had to hang on as long as she could. After all, no one would ever know if a miracle would happen at any moment. The night was quiet and there was no one on the streets. Only some cars passed by occasionally. It might be a coincidence, but every time Ningxi tried to go up to them for help, the cars would speed up and then vanish quickly. Ningxi walked around aimlessly, then suddenly she saw a light in the distance. She intuitively walked towards the brighter area. She found herself in a vast square. Ningxi stopped. In the middle of the square were that man and his people. The man was surprised to see Ningxi as well. He chuckled. Little girl, I was thinking of letting you experience more despair, but you couldn't wait anymore and came to us on your own. I was just about to send my people to look for you. This man would never let Ningxi escape. He had already set up armed men around the area to find her eventually, but here she was now. Ningxi was calm at the moment, as if she was surrendering herself to them. The earless man walked up to her and grabbed her hair to lead her outside of the square. It was dead silent in the Philadelphian midnight. There was no one else aside from this man and his people. Little girl, don't be impatient. I'll have sex with you right here and now, in front of them. Isn't that exciting? The man stressed, his eyes judging her like an evil serpent's. His men all shot her dirty looks and they snickered cruelly together. Baby, I'll give you a chance. If you actually make me feel good, maybe, just maybe, I'll let you live. What do you think? The man licked his dry lips and started to close into Ningxi. Before Ningxi could say anything, the sounds of roaring motors came closer. Your F48 stories on /o/v/lbn.cm. A row of black cars appeared in front of them, revving loudly. Boss, those are not our people, warned one of the armed men. The man nodded indifferently as he did not really deem a few cars as a threat to him. The car doors were flung open and several dozen men in black suits came out. Their leader was a middle-aged man who glanced over everyone and his gaze rested on Augustine. Mr. Augustine, I think you've caught someone you shouldn't have, and done something you shouldn't have, the middle-aged man said, nodding at Augustine. Boss, they're Satan's men, whispered a man to Augustine in a nervous tone. Augustine did not need the reminder. He recognized this man as someone he had seen near Satan before. To his memory, this man was a tactician responsible for negotiations. Oh, I remember you, you're Feng Jin. Augustine looked at the middle-aged man and smiled coldly. You're right, Mr. Augustine. Feng Jin answered, remaining solemn. Ha ha ha, interesting, so Satan didn't dare to come here himself. Sending a dog to chat with me instead, he tried to provoke the man while pulling on Ningxi's hair harder. Mr. Augustine, I think you're mistaken, I'm not here to talk to you. I'm just reminding you that if you don't let Tangxi go now, the consequences would be dire. Augustine laughed at Feng Jin's words. The whole of Philadelphia was his turf now and he could even utilize the entire police force in Philadelphia, not just these dozen men. Even if Satan was here himself, he would be dead. Suddenly, Augustine's expression darkened. You are in no position to talk to me, but since you're here, I'll do my best to welcome you. You can stay here, forever. As Augustine finished his sentence, hundreds of guns aimed in onto Feng Jin. Feng Jin was unfazed as he calmly said, since you aren't going to take my advice, Mr. Augustine, then please accept the consequences. Find you chapters on nv/lbi.com. After he finished, he walked away from them, ignoring all the guns. In the next second, a dozen of black cars appeared everywhere, blocking all the escape routes. Augustine was caught off guard and he frowned a little, but he was calm soon after. He chortled. Is this what Satan is capable of? You want to face me with just these few people and the whole of Philadelphia? Augustine made a phone call and briefly instructed, do it. Police sirens wailed nearby. The sirens broke the silence in the night, the number of police cars almost doubling the number of cars Feng Jin had brought. Ha ha ha, you guys make fine prey. The police department of Philadelphia was interested to check you guys out. I've already said that even if Satan came here personally, he'd have to die here. Hundreds of armed police officers surrounded them, all looking ferocious. The police force had tightly surrounded Feng Jin and his people. Looking at the number of uniformed officers, this was probably the whole of the Philadelphia's police force. A flash of insanity crossed Augustine's face. He had already said that at that very moment, he was the king of Philadelphia. Forget about Satan's dog, even if Satan himself appeared here, he would have to die in Philadelphia. Feng Jin looked at the police cars that had them surrounded. The car doors were opened and the police guns were pointed at his group through the wound-down car windows. The rest of the police force held up riot shields and blocked all the escape routes, executing the perfect plan to wipe out Feng Jin and his gang. Ha ha ha, these are all Satan's people. They won't surrender, so why don't you just kill them all? Augustine hinted to the brawny man behind him. That man understood and immediately looked at Feng Jin, who was among the surrounded crowd, and pulled the trigger. Bam! Suddenly, a loud sound rang across the square. What shocked everyone was that Feng Jin, who was initially meant to be shot, was not harmed at all. Instead, it was the muscular man behind Augustine who was shot in the head, blood spurting out of the hole in his head. Just like that, that man's stiff body fell to the ground. A sniper? Augustine and the head of police beside him had an incredulous expression on their faces. They actually have snipers. Augustine's nostrils flared in anger. Snipers were very hard to avoid. Who'd have known that Feng Jin had planned for an ambush with snipers in the dark corners? No wonder they were so fearless. All West ch.rs on n.o/vli/n/.cm. The head of the police opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. However, at that moment, a thunderous boom was heard, making everyone's eardrums ring with piercing silence in the aftermath. What's happening? Several police cars were crumpled by a strong force. When Augustine and the rest looked behind them, they saw a military tank. Wah, a military tank? The head of the police had his mouth opened in disbelief. On top of that tank were several machine guns, and behind it were armed men with various artillery. In just one glance, they really did look like a regular army. God *mn it must be Satan. Destroy that tank. Augustine shouted angrily, certain that Satan was definitely in that armed tank. Boom! 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 Following Augustine's orders, one roar after another was heard. Under everyone's horrified gazes, each of the militant tanks made their way over slowly, and very soon, they were stacked up akin to a mountain. On top of every tank were terrifying machine guns armed by two fully equipped men. Mr. Augustine, earlier a certain someone said that you would take all the consequences upon yourself. Feng Jin looked at Augustine and said very courteously. You are asking for it. Augustine bellowed furiously. Then, under Augustine's orders, a man behind him started shooting at Feng Jin. However, before he could even pull the trigger, a sniper took out the man. Mr. Augustine, I understand your reluctance and anger, but forgive me for being straightforward. You're not very different from an ant. You won't be able to kill anyone here. Feng Jin shrugged nonchalantly. Fight to your death. Don't worry. With this witch in my hands, even Satan will follow my orders obediently. Augustine said cruelly, despite not really having a plan. Suddenly, the sky above them started to ring with the rotor sounds of a grass cutter. Augustine and the head of the police looked up to find themselves gasping at the unbelievable sight. Several helicopters circled above their heads, and in less than a second, Tang Yi swiftly swooped down, dressed in black. God *mn it, Tang Yi. Augustine could not help but curse out loud. He never would have thought that Tang Yi would personally come. Before Augustine could complete his cursing, the person who trailed behind Tang Yi was actually Feng Xiaoxiao. Both Augustine and the head of the police beside him started to tremble. The latter already knew that Satan was not one to mess with, and indeed, tonight would confirm the rumors. Military tanks, helicopters, he practically had a completely organized army. What sort of force was this? Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com. Throw Tang Yi and Feng Xiaoxiao into the equation, which one of them weren't intimidating figures. And now, all these people had unexpectedly appeared together. The person Augustine had caught, who was she really? Very quickly, the military tanks moved aside and an unmarked silver car drove over. This little car looked vintage and seemed to be of the classic make. The car also had layers of dust on it and it looked very dirty. For it to drive into such a battleground, it looked very odd. Under everyone's watchful gazes, Tang Yi walked to the gray car and personally opened the door while Feng Jin, Feng Xiaoxiao and everyone else waited respectfully beside the car. Just as everyone was confused by the odd appearance of the car, a man emerged out of the rundown car. They could see a man with silver-colored hair that seemed to float with a life of its own in the night air. He had a slightly long fringe that covered one of his eyes, while the other eye was a light brown pool which revealed strands of hostility. Ningxi seemed to involuntarily cringe when she saw the silver-colored hair man not too far away from her. She looked absent-minded, thinking she was experiencing hallucinations. Unexpectedly, it was, how could it be? Satan. The moment he saw the man, Augustine's face had turned sallow as if he had seen a ghost. Very few people had personally seen Satan, but they recognized his signature silver hair. Augustine thought to himself, insanity. They are all insane. Blowing everyone's expectations out of the water, Satan had dared to leave the straits for Philadelphia and even mobilized such a huge force and created such a ruckus just for a woman. Even if this man held the title as the King of the Night, he was being a little too arrogant, digging his own grave. Satan, what are you trying to do? Don't you forget who I am? Augustine looked terrified as if Lucifer himself had appeared in front of him. As the man slowly walked towards him, cold sweat ran down his forehead like a waterfall and he shouted at his men furiously, "Shoot! Shoot! Shoot him to death!" Nevertheless, facing the dark crowd, the silver-haired man acted as if he had entered no man's land. His dull eyes were empty, there was nothing in them and nothing he cared for. As for Augustine, the instant the silver-haired man had appeared, his men had already started to retreat. Even though they held heavy artillery in their hands, the guns did not have any detrimental effect on them because they did not even dare to let their gaze linger on him, much less shoot him. Suddenly, the entire place turned defensive. They had no doubt that in the next second, this man would destroy Augustine to ashes. However, what everyone did not expect was for the silver-haired man to walk past him with a poker face as if he did not see Augustine. He walked straight to the girl behind him. He stood still, then slowly put his chin on the girl's shoulder while putting his arms around her waist from behind. He spoke in the most flighty manner, "Miss me, my dear?" Augustine, Tang Yi, Feng Xiaoxiao, and Feng Jin were speechless. All West ch.rs on n.o/vli/n/.cm. In fact, everyone else who was initially tensed and prepared to fight was rendered speechless. Bro, the place is practically filled to the brim with gunpowder. Can you please review the occasion before displaying your affections? Ningxi could only feel a tall shadow behind her, then a familiar voice breathed into her ear. From the side of her vision, she could vaguely see a strand of silver hair lightly whirling in the night breeze. However, Ningxi was not confused for too long because the guy was like a huge dog and had suddenly put his entire weight on her, causing her injured thigh to sting slightly. Instantly, the piercing ache awoke her, then she said through gritted teeth, "I miss you, uncle." The man raised his eyebrows and he said in a low voice, "MMM? My dear, did you say something extra? She should be missing him, shouldn't she? Did she address him as her uncle? Yes, I called you uncle. Baby, you're so smart, you really did call me uncle wrongly." Ningxi did not have time to teach him the depths of the Chinese language. She could not hold it in anymore and exclaimed, "Move away. My leg has been shot." When the man heard her, he finally straightened his body slowly and distanced himself slightly. His cold gaze skimmed the horrific-looking wound on her thigh and said simply, "How useless. You." Ningxi's body was already reaching her pain threshold. Combined with the loss of blood and this dude testing her patience, her body wavered and she almost passed out. The man held the girl's limp body steadily, then supported her by the waist. His light brown eyes turned to Tang Yi and said, "Have some fun with them." Then, he carried Ningxi towards the shabby car and Feng Xiaoxiao followed him to remind, "Junior sister is wounded. This car is too run down, just take the helicopter." "She's not that weak," the man replied curtly before he just put the girl into the car. Behind him, Feng Xiaoxiao's mouth twitched and insulted, "Pfft, this EQ of his, serves him right that little sister ran off with someone else." When Tang Yi heard this, he turned to shoot Feng Xiaoxiao a look. Feng Xiaoxiao felt her goosebumps rise. "What? Did I say anything wrong?" Tang Yi replied, "You're not wrong. In fact, you are very accurate indeed." Feng Xiaoxiao was speechless. She looked Augustine and the rest. What should we do with these people here? What does have fun mean? Does fun include killing them? Feng Jin looked gravely at her. They are the other side's men after all. It won't be easy to explain if they're dead. Have mercy on their lives. Tang Yi nodded, indicating that he had no opinions. In fact, today they had already caused too much of a ruckus. If they alarmed the American government, the consequences would be unimaginable. They had to resolve this as soon as possible. Inside the silver little car, Ningxi leaned weakly on the car seat. She felt like she could black out and die any time, but she did not dare to, so she used her last bit of strength to hold on to her consciousness. Beside her, the man was speaking into the walkie-talkie in English. In Ningxi's dazed state, she could vaguely pick up several words. She was suddenly very awake and she demanded, "You guys want to migrate everything?" She thought that she heard the guy saying that the organization's location had been secretly exposed, so now they had to all retreat to Country Y. The man put the walkie-talkie down and watched her with his cold hazel eyes. Then, with his long fingers, he lightly pulled off the wig that was already lopsided and said gently, "My dear, it's not you guys. It's us." The instant her wig was taken off, Ningxi's jet black hair cascaded down like a waterfall and paired with her pale face the size of a palm, it was clear that she had the type of beauty that moved one's heart and soul. Us. When Ningxi heard this, there was a flash of panic in her eyes. She could not help feeling like she had fallen into a trap. Her voice raised by an octave, "What does this have to do with me? I'm not going. I came over to explain to you that we are over. From now onwards, you can walk your sunshine path while I cross my lonely bridge. Please stop interfering in my personal matters." The man looked at her endearingly like he wanted to guffaw. "Ha, over? My dear, you're mine. How can we possibly be over?" Ningxi could feel her adrenaline spike in the midst of her anger. "Your head. Yours? Oh. If you're not mine, then whose are you? Lu Tingxiao's?" The air around the man instantly turned heavy with a looming threat. "I'm no one's. Can't I be my own person?" The man was obviously not persuaded by these words. Instead, he twirled her hair and said in a dangerous tone, "My dear, I can let you out to play, but such freedom does not include you cheating on me, so now, I'm taking your freedom back." Cheat? The both of us aren't in a relationship. Do you even know what it's like to be in love? As a matter of fact, I don't. Will you teach me? I'll teach your sister. I don't have a sister. Ningxi was speechless. She decided to shut up and conserve her energy instead. She leaned against the car window and looked out into the dark night, hopelessness abound in her eyes. If she left with him now, it was possible that she would never be able to return again. In Washington, D.C., at the hotel. Last night, the drama crew had partied throughout the night. All of them had slept till noon before even stirring. When the crew was having lunch together, they suddenly realized someone was missing. Why didn't Ningxi come? Has she eaten? I don't know. Call her to ask. Up-to-date OVLS on OVL-bin.cm. Jiang Mai took out his phone to call Ningxi, but he could not get through. He frowned. Her phone is switched off. She didn't follow us out to the bar last night, did she? There's no way she hasn't woken up by now, the scriptwriter, Yi Linglong, thought out loud. Jiang Mai got up and declared, I'll go upstairs to take a look. When Jiang Mai reached Ningxi's room upstairs, he rang the doorbell for a long time, but there was no response. What's her deal? She didn't go out with us. Could she have gone out to party by herself? Where's the loyalty? Jiang Mai was upset by his deduction, so he just shrugged and went down to continue eating. After lunch, seeing that the time for their return flight was increasingly near and Ningxi was still nowhere to be found, Jiang Mai, who was initially upset, started to feel that something was not right. Even though Ningxi could be quite a hardcore when it came to partying, she would definitely not hold up official matters and especially not when it came to work. How possible was it for her to have partied so hard and not return? What's wrong? Still can't reach Ningxi? Gui Qisheng walked over to ask. No, she's uncontactable. Jiang Mai looked at his phone absent-mindedly. Gui Qisheng looked at the time on his watch and said, if we don't go to the airport now, we won't make it. Jiang Mai was not planning to move. He said, you guys go first, I'll wait for her here. Gui Qisheng frowned. I'll wait too. Let the others go first. After all, he was the one leading the team this time and he had to be responsible for all the members of the group. With that, the other drama crew members flew back home first, while Gui Qisheng and Jiang Mai both stayed to wait for Ningxi. All the time while waiting for Ningxi to show up, Gui Qisheng and Jiang Mai both tried calling her multiple times but Ningxi's phone remained switched off. This was when they started to be anxious and asked the hotel receptionists if they had seen Ningxi. When they realized no one had noticed anything, they requested for the surveillance recordings. The process of getting the surveillance tapes from the hotel was rather complicated and by the time they looked at the recordings, it was already night. The surveillance showed that Ningxi did indeed return to her room as soon as she reached the hotel and she did not go out within the night as well. She had only left in the morning the following day. Since then, she had not been back till now. Geet the L Testvels on no/v/elben.c/om. What's going on? Where did she go to that she has not returned yet? Jiang Mai's brows furrowed. Based on the way she dressed from the surveillance, it did not seem like she had gone out for fun. Besides, it was still very early in the morning when she left. Gui Qisheng paced back and forth while looking worried. It's not very safe here in America, even though DC isn't too bad, but the suburbs aren't known for being peaceful. Could Ningxi have left DC? Did she tell you where she was going today? Jiang Mai shook his head. She did not say anything. I didn't manage to drag her to the bar since she said she wanted to catch up on sleep. The both of them started to look for her since noon. However, there was no news of Ningxi at all until later that night. At the same time, at a certain business reception in Imperial, Lu Tingxiao wore a black tuxedo and stood in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, looked deep in thought. Behind him, Emo Ling Tian walked over and put his hand on his shoulders, unable to bear seeing this go on any longer.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
What are you thinking of again? Why do you seem so absent-minded recently? It's fine if you're not going to drink at the reception, but now you won't even bring your spirit with you? Then, Emo Ling Tian saw Lu Tingxiao's phone screen light up. He clawed at his eyes, feigning blindness. What the hell? My eyes! They burn! What's this? Lu Tingxiao, are you okay? Lu Tingxiao shot a look at his best friend coldly as if his words had insulted the screensaver on his phone. Lu Tingxiao's phone screensaver was a selfie of Ning Shi, Little Treasure, and him. It was their family portrait of three. In the picture, the three of them had all posed cutely, holding their cheeks like buns. Little Treasure looked madly adorable while Ning Shi smiled extremely brightly. Despite Lu Tingxiao's poker face standing out oddly, the tenderness and love in his eyes could not be concealed. The three of their faces had lots of little fun stickers pasted on them, and above everyone's head was a pair of pink-colored cat ears. Had it been just Little Treasure and Ning Shi, the picture would have been quite cute, but once the awkward and stone-faced Lu Tingxiao was included, the entire picture looked extremely queer. It was no wonder that Emo Ling Tian acted like he was going blind. My goodness! You actually took pictures like this. I'm amazed! Anyone who came across this would think you've been possessed. Lu Tingxiao totally understood his best friend's insults. He clicked on Ning Shi's name to send her a message. Have you landed? If the flight had not been delayed, Ning Shi's flight should be landing right about that time. Because he had the function to attend, he did not personally fetch her. Lu Tingxiao did not receive any reply for a long time. A while later, his phone suddenly rang. He thought it was Ning Shi, but on the phone screen was Jiang Mai. Hello, uncle. Jiang Mai greeted in an unusually agitated voice. Did something happen? The man's deep voice responded with some murmuring in the background as though he was at some business function. New N0VEL chapters are published on N0V/E/LB/IN/co/M. Jiang Mai did not dare to keep what had happened a secret. After all, he was in a foreign country and had no resources of his own. If Lu Tingxiao took action, it would definitely be much more convenient and efficient given his connections, so he just blurted out, Uncle, Ning Shi is missing. She has already gone missing for an entire day. I've made a police report, and according to their surveillance, they managed to track that she entered Philadelphia. We don't know what happened in Philadelphia, but all the surveillance there has malfunctioned and they cannot investigate anything further. I was prepared to rush over, but I was told that it's a dangerous area. I'm worried about Ning Shi. In the luxurious banquet hall under a crystal chandelier, the man in a black tuxedo gripped the phone in his hand tighter and the temperature around him fell. What did you say? Philadelphia. Didn't Ning Shi go to DC to promote the movie? Why would she go to Philadelphia? Emo Ling Tian, who was beside him, shuddered and rubbed his arms. Lu Tingxiao, what's wrong? You look unhappy. Before tomorrow, I must know who that person is, Lu Tingxiao simply said, then he left the banquet hall without turning back. My God! Tomorrow, even if I investigate with my life, there won't be enough time. Emo Ling Tian cursed after him. However, observing Lu Tingxiao's attitude earlier, it seemed like some huge issue had happened, so he did not dare to delay and instantly left to follow orders to get the work done. 10 minutes later. In the night sky, on a helicopter. Lu Tingxiao put a black laptop on his knees, his face determined to go right into a storm that was brewing. The entire network in Philadelphia was paralyzed as if someone had intentionally sabotaged it to hide something. After half an hour, he finally managed to get some choppy footages. Even though it was only a short clip, his heart leapt into his throat. He saw Ningxi being chased by a group of people wanting to kill her. The footage of the final second was the one of Ningxi getting shot. Lu Tingxiao's voice started to shake as he ordered, "Go to Philadelphia." Qing Feng, who watched the surveillance footage on the laptop beside him, looked horrified too. He only regained his senses when Lu Tingxiao gave his order, then he quickly said, "Boss, the entire Philadelphia is in chaos right now. It will be too dangerous to go there right now." Lu Tingxiao shot him a terrifying look and Qing Feng could only shut up. Dead, they were dead. Please don't let anything happen to the lady boss. Or else. Lu Tingxiao did not know how he managed to sit through the last few seconds of footage. It was like walking through hell and back for him. He shut his eyes, then opened it again 3 seconds later. His eyes were like a deep pool, with no ripples in them at all. He took out his phone and made a call. "Minister Naka, I'm sorry for disturbing you at this hour." "Ah, Mr. Liu, my honorable guest, you're calling this late at night. Is there an emergency?" The man on the other end of the phone had a friendly tone. "Indeed. I need your help." "Oh. Mr. Liu, feel free to ask." "I would like to borrow a troop of your best army from you, Minister." "What?" This. He did not expect Lu Tingxiao to ask for such an outrageous request so suddenly. His sleepiness instantly disappeared. "Mr. Liu, what's happened?" "I need to make a trip to Philadelphia." "My lord, please don't. Philadelphia has been controlled by a group of Italian gangsters recently. Even if you have a dire emergency, please wait until the situation is more stable before." "My wife is in their hands. My wife is in their hands." When he heard Lu Tingxiao's words, the minister exclaimed, "What? The audacity of these people!" Lu Tingxiao was one of America's most important investors and he had a close relationship with the American government. Now that his wife was actually kidnapped within the borders of America, if anything happened, the consequences would be. However, the situation in Philadelphia was complicated. A single tiny move would cause a great ripple. It was only half a year away to the next elections and he had only wanted to focus on being a politician for the next 6 months without wanting to take credit for anything else. Who'd have expected something like this to happen? Lu Tingxiao naturally understood his concerns and assured, "Don't worry, Minister, I will do my best to resolve the issue in a peaceful way." Try his best, so, would that exclude the possibility of using violence to resolve the issue? La test novls on n velby/.co. The minister broke out in cold sweat. However, this person still had to be saved. At the American border. The night was lit up brightly and a loud rumbling sound was heard. A helicopter slowly descended from the sky. The door opened and Lu Tingxiao walked out, clad in his tuxedo. Qing Feng followed behind him. Because the news was too sudden, he had got onto the helicopter as soon as he received the call, not bringing anyone else with him. In the rural area, the white-haired elder had waited for a long while. When he saw Lu Tingxiao appear, the elder smiled and walked up to shake his hand. "Mr. Liu, who would have known that something like this would happen? Please do accept my apologies." Lu Tingxiao courteously replied, "Minister Naka, my apologies for disturbing you so late at night." Usually, he would not trouble the minister because getting too involved with the government was not necessarily a good thing. But now, he was not sure whether Ningxi was dead or alive. For such an emergency, he did not care much about politics at the moment. Minister Naka sighed, "Recently, Philadelphia has been taken over by a group of Italian gangsters. Even though my department has intentions to take them down, the current situation in America is very tense and I have not found the time to deal with it yet. We would never have expected Mr. Liu's wife to suddenly appear in Philadelphia or that something like this would happen. Liu Tingxiao was a huge figure in the Chinese business and he had a powerful influence in the economy. At the same time, he was also America's important investor in several aspects. He had a close relationship with the government and they really valued Liu Tingxiao too. Rumor had it that Liu Tingxiao also had huge investments in several other countries. His capabilities were extraordinary, he was no ordinary businessman. Or else, he would not be this anxious in the middle of the night to have a minister personally receive him. If anything happened to Liu Tingxiao's beloved wife in Philadelphia, his reputation as a minister would be at stake because if this issue caused Liu Tingxiao to hate America and stop his investments, it might even cause other disputes to follow. This was a very difficult issue to handle. Qin Feng silently followed Liu Tingxiao. All the while, his hand had not stopped working on his phone as he continued to track Ningxi down. Even though America was relatively poorer compared to other second-world countries, they had a decently sized military. The power of their military forces came to light especially recently when a war was incited between America and another small country. It was then that many potential investors saw America's true capabilities. However, even though America's military force was not considered small, the economic aspect of it was a headache. After all, especially following a war, they would need even more money to support the troops. America's economic infrastructure was severely lacking, so they valued big tycoon investors such as Liu Tingxiao. My wife is in their hands. When he heard Liu Tingxiao's words, the minister exclaimed, "What? The audacity of these people!" Liu Tingxiao was one of America's most important investors and he had a close relationship with the American government. Now that his wife was actually kidnapped within the borders of America, if anything happened, the consequences would be. However, the situation in Philadelphia was complicated. A single tiny move would cause a great ripple. It was only half a year away to the next elections and he had only wanted to focus on being a politician for the next 6 months without wanting to take credit for anything else. Who'd have expected something like this to happen? Liu Tingxiao naturally understood his concerns and assured, "Don't worry, Minister, I will do my best to resolve the issue in a peaceful way." Try his best, so, would that exclude the possibility of using violence to resolve the issue? La test novls on n.co. The minister broke out in cold sweat. However, this person still had to be saved. At the American border. The night was lit up brightly and a loud rumbling sound was heard. A helicopter slowly descended from the sky. The door opened and Liu Tingxiao walked out, clad in his tuxedo. Qin Feng followed behind him. Because the news was too sudden, he had got onto the helicopter as soon as he received the call, not bringing anyone else with him. In the rural area, the white-haired elder had waited for a long while. When he saw Liu Tingxiao appear, the elder smiled and walked up to shake his hand. "Mr. Liu, who would have known that something like this would happen? Please do accept my apologies." Liu Tingxiao courteously replied, "Minister Naka, my apologies for disturbing you so late at night." Usually, he would not trouble the minister because getting too involved with the government was not necessarily a good thing. But now, he was not sure whether Ningxi was dead or alive. For such an emergency, he did not care much about politics at the moment. Minister Naka sighed, "Recently, Philadelphia has been taken over by a group of Italian gangsters. Even though my department has intentions to take them down, the current situation in America is very tense and I have not found the time to deal with it yet." We would never have expected Mr. Liu's wife to suddenly appear in Philadelphia or that something like this would happen. Liu Tingxiao was a huge figure in the Chinese business and he had a powerful influence in the economy. At the same time, he was also America's important investor in several aspects. He had a close relationship with the government and they really valued Liu Tingxiao too. Rumor had it that Liu Tingxiao also had huge investments in several other countries. His capabilities were extraordinary, he was no ordinary businessman. Or else, he would not be this anxious in the middle of the night to have a minister personally receive him. If anything happened to Liu Tingxiao's beloved wife in Philadelphia, his reputation as a minister would be at stake, because if this issue caused Liu Tingxiao to hate America and stop his investments, it might even cause other disputes to follow. This was a very difficult issue to handle. Qing Feng silently followed Liu Tingxiao. All the while, his hand had not stopped working on his phone as he continued to track Ningxi down. Even though America was relatively poorer compared to other Second World countries, they had a decently sized military. The power of their military forces came to light especially recently when a war was incited between America and another small country. It was then that many potential investors saw America's true capabilities. However, even though America's military force was not considered small, the economic aspect of it was a headache. After all, especially following a war, they would need even more money to support the troops. America's economic infrastructure was severely lacking, so they valued big tycoon investors such as Liu Tingxiao. Minister Naka, we can skip the small talk. My wife's survival is uncertain right now. I urgently need to borrow a unit from your army troop. Liu Tingxiao looked stony as always, but upon closer inspection, you would notice a terrifying undercurrent in his eyes. Well, Mr. Liu, I think you are all well too aware that the current war situation in America is tense. If you want a troop. Minister Naka looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. What do you mean, Minister Naka? Liu Tingxiao looked meaningfully towards the elder. Mr. Liu, America currently has a few more important investments at hand, and these investments are related to the military. So, Mr. Liu, if you are willing to invest, I think it won't be too much of a problem to immediately organize a troop for you. I'm just wondering what you think about it. Minister Naka said this as he evaluated Liu Tingxiao's attitude evenly. Qing Feng's eyebrows flew up. Minister Naka was obviously taking advantage of the situation. Liu Tingxiao looked at Minister Naka and said sharply, Minister Naka, I don't have the mood to discuss business with you right now. Well, then it won't be easy to settle this. It might take some time to mobilize a troop. Minister Naka said, intentionally looking troubled. Okay. Liu Tingxiao nodded. When he heard this, Minister Naka was instantly overjoyed, immediately concluding that he would get a fresh flow of funds. However, what Liu Tingxiao said next changed Minister Naka's entire expression. If that's the case, then we'll remove all investments of Liu Corporation in America, then perhaps we'll look for other investments in country M. Liu Tingxiao finished without giving Minister Naka another look. He nodded at Qing Feng and walked towards the helicopter. My lord, please hold on. Minister Naka immediately ran to chase after him and stopped Liu Tingxiao. He thought that because Liu Tingxiao was in such a desperate situation, he would agree to further investments, but the man did not take the bait. If Liu Tingxiao really removed all his investments, the authorities would blame him and whatever benefits he had dreamt of would evaporate instantly. Mr. Liu, what I said was just what we can discuss later. We have an emergency at hand and will still need to save your wife from Philadelphia first, don't we? Minister Naka quickly said after he stopped Liu Tingxiao. What about the troops? Liu Tingxiao looked at Minister Naka coldly. Well, then, how about we prepare a troop of 300 people for you, Mr. Liu? Minister Naka seemed to be asking for Liu Tingxiao's opinion. 300 people. Liu Tingxiao squinted. Visit Novelbin. C.M for updates. He was not even clear about the current situation in Philadelphia. That place was chaotic. Even without the Italian gangsters, there were still strong forces there, and all of these were uncertainties. 300 people would not be enough. If 300 people could solve the issue, why would he go through so much work when he only needed to mobilize his people? Why would he need to look for this minister? How about 400 men? Minister Naka tested again when he saw Lu Tingxiao hesitate. Lu Tingxiao continued to stare at him without saying anything. Naka was rather anxious by now, so he rubbed his hands together and asked, "Mr. Lu, what do you want?" 20 tanks, 5 fighter jets, and 500 men equipped with firearms, Lu Tingxiao said plainly. Minister Naka looked stiffly at the tuxedo-clad man, holding back a curse. 20 tanks plus 5 fighter jets and 500 armed men. Lu Tingxiao was being too demanding. Why didn't he just rob someone? With the recent battlefield requirements, there was no way they had that many tanks and fighter jets to spare. Even if they did, he could not just casually mobilize them. No way. Definitely no way. This definitely can't be done. Minister Naka cried out emotionally. Since there is no way, then Lu Corporation can't continue either. Farewell, Minister. Lu Tingxiao shook his head. Mr. Lu. Minister Naka said, practically weeping, Mr. Lu, your requests are too demanding. With the recent tense battles, we only have 5 tanks and 2 fighter jets to spare. Even if you wanted more, you can only mobilize these. Deal. Lu Tingxiao nodded. What? Minister Naka was stunned. Had he just been tricked by Lu Tingxiao? He was Minister Naka after all and had dealt with diplomatic situations for half his life, yet here he was, being tricked by a businessman. Obviously, Lu Tingxiao was well-versed in psychology. First, he requested for a demand that the opposite party would never agree to, then he revealed what he really wanted, which made things sound much easier. Minister Naka was helpless at the moment. 5 tanks, plus 2 fighter jets with a 300-strong armed troop. This force should be enough to wipe out Philadelphia. No problems, right, Mr. Lu? Sure, Lu Tingxiao answered. Looking at Minister Naka's forlorn expression, Lu Tingxiao assured, "Don't worry, Minister Naka, I will bear whatever compensation if any loss happens. In fact, just as I said before, I would try my best to resolve the issue peacefully." With your promise, Mr. Lu, I feel assured. Please do try. Minister Naka let his men open the door before he got into the helicopter with Lu Tingxiao and flew towards the nearest military fortress. In Philadelphia. At that moment, Augustine was carried by several brawny men as they ran towards the outskirts of Philadelphia. Their band of more than 100 men had dwindled down to 20-odd people and the clothes on them had been shredded clean. Feng Xiaoxiao and Tang Yi still had some doubts, so they captured about 70 to 80 of his men, stripped them of their weapons, then let Augustine bring enough money for their ransom. Feng Xiaoxiao actually got her people to remove all of their clothes. Augustine's pants were colored in carmine red blood while the lower region of his body had been destroyed by Tang Yi. Satan, Tang Yi, I will have you guys die horribly. Augustine snarled, violence blazing in his eyes. If looks could kill, Satan, Tang Yi and everyone else would have died much earlier and multiple times too. Sadly, glaring intently could not maim, much less, kill them. Boss, what do we do now? Philadelphia's police force is a bunch of useless kittens. They looked at Satan like they had seen a ghost and ran away faster than anyone. They have really screwed us over, asked one of the brawny men who carried Augustine carefully. Actually, everyone knew very well that the person who had screwed them over was none other than Augustine himself. If it had not been because of his insistence to mess with Satan's woman, everyone would not have ended up like this. Find the new ST Ovals on n/velben.com. Augustine's nether regions were ruined by Tang Yi. In order to let Augustine live, Tang Yi and Feng Xiaoxiao actually brought a doctor over to conduct surgery on Augustine, sewing up the wound and even injected painkillers. Compared to his ears which were sliced off, his nether regions were much more important. I will have them pay 1,000,000 times worse. I want to let Satan, Tang Yi, and the rest of them die horribly. Do you hear me? They will die horribly. Augustine roared. When they heard this, his men shook their heads. Satan was a reputable figure and was nicknamed King of the Night. Even his man, Tang Yi alone, could easily kill Augustine. What could Augustine seek revenge with? His mouth? A plan was already hatching in Augustine's mind. He would first inform the seniors about this. They definitely would not leave him to die. Until then. Suddenly, deep rumbles were heard across the sky and the night was lit up. 2 fighter jets were actually circling the Philadelphia sky, while a huge beam shone in every corner hunting for something. Where's that helicopter from? Helicopter. That's a weird sound it's making. Damn it, that's a militant fighter jet. It was not sure who in particular shouted this, but everyone else inspected closely and turned pale. Those were indeed fighter jets. In fact, those were American fighter jets. What's going on? Why would these American fighter jets appear in Philadelphia? One of the men asked, breaking out in cold sweat. He thought to himself, could the American government want to wipe out the gangsters in Philadelphia? However, based on their group activities, there was no way they would have attracted the attention of the American government. Besides, America was currently engaged in war, so how could they be wasting militant resources on little Philadelphia? That was definitely American fighter jets though, no mistake about that. Militant tanks. Within a few breaths, several large tanks slowly lumbered into sight. The huge cannons had muzzle brakes on them and they could only imagine what it would be like if the cannon was fired. There were 2 fighter jets in the air and 5 American tanks on the ground. Augustine and the rest were thoroughly dumbfounded on the spot. They were itching to know what exactly was happening. 2 American military fighter jets and 5 American war tanks suddenly appeared in Philadelphia, leaving Augustine and his men in shock. At that moment, Augustine's hatred towards Satan and Tang Yi was forgotten instantly. A few dozen trucks soon appeared with fierce-looking armed squads. Soon, a white military truck stopped in front of Augustine. The door opened and a man in camo gear alighted, his stripes indicating that he was a captain. "Stay right there," the captain roared at Augustine and his men. The next second, hundreds of armed soldiers aimed their gun at Augustine. Augustine was sweating profusely. This was the official military of America. Augustine was still hoping that Satan would be their target as his gang might not be as influential as Satan. Right, it must be Satan they are after. Augustine reaffirmed his own thoughts, confident that the official military to counter him could have only summoned someone at Satan's level. "What's your name?" A soldier closed in on Augustine and shouted at him while pointing a rifle dangerously. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. Augustine Cavendish. Augustine's forehead was slick with sweat as he reported his full name nervously. "Bastard," the soldier yelled and smashed his rifle into Augustine's face. Augustine fell hard onto the floor from the impact and his men did not dare to do anything. All 20 of them did not move an inch even upon seeing Augustine attacked. "Hand me the people!" There was the sound of a bullet being loaded and a gun was aimed at Augustine's face, ready to be fired any moment. "What? Who? What people?" Augustine stammered in confusion from the rifle butt and was even more confused when he was asked to hand over some people. He did not know what they were talking about. "You bastard, I'll kill you right here." The soldier raised his foot and stomped on Augustine's torso, causing Augustine to almost pass out from the heavy impact. "Mr. Liu, is this him?" A car door opened and Liu Tingxiao came out. Liu Tingxiao nodded. He had looked at the CCTV and confirmed that this man was Augustine. However, seeing Augustine and his men but naked in Philadelphia, with the dark congealed bloodstains smeared on the bottom half of Augustine's body, something must have happened, and Ningxi was clearly not with him right now. "Where's my wife?" Lu Tingxiao stopped the soldier's barrage with a hand as he squatted down and looked at him coldly. "Your wife? Who's your wife?" Augustine backed off, scuttling on his backside and hands. The terrifying aura from the man was scaring him. "Ningxi, the woman you took in the morning. You even shot her in the leg." Although Lu Tingxiao tried to sound calm, his cold gaze made Augustine shiver. "Ningxi, I don't know her. Did you get the wrong person?" Augustine was petrified. Who exactly was this woman? First, there was Satan, and now the American military was here. Furthermore, seeing how the captain was treating this man respectfully, could he possibly be a major or maybe a colonel? Augustine thought that the American military was here for Satan, but it was all because of Ningxi. This man had mentioned that Ningxi was his wife. Then, what about Satan? Was Ningxi not Satan's woman? Augustine had no time for doubts. He knew that he could never admit shooting Ningxi. Instead, he insisted that he did not know Ningxi and had never abducted this man's wife. "Don't want to talk?" Lu Tingxiao stood up and looked at him casually. "There are a lot of ways to make you talk if you'd like to try." Perspiration dripped off Augustine's forehead as he looked at the stranger and thought to himself, if this man is so sure about what I have done, he probably has enough evidence to believe so, and it is meaningless to deny the truth anymore. "That woman, she was taken away just now." After a while, Augustine decided to blurt out the truth. "Bastard, why did you abduct Madame Lu? Spill it!" A soldier smashed Augustine in the shoulder with his gun again. These military soldiers were not very patient. With his wail like a dying pig, a fresh wound split open on Augustine's face. Up-to-date OVLS on OVL bin.cm. "Tell us who took Madame Lu away or I'll kill you right now." The soldier glowered at him fiercely. Without waiting for Augustine to speak, the captain went up to Lu Tingxiao and whispered to him, "Mr. Lu, from the CCTV videos just now, your wife has been taken away by another group of people, who are still in Philadelphia at the moment." Another group of people? Lu Tingxiao frowned. What trouble did Ningxi get herself into this time? "But, Mr. Lu, these people, they aren't your common thugs," the captain explained anxiously as he looked at the military-grade armored car and the heavy machine gun. After hearing the captain's description, Lu Tingxiao replied instantly, "I'm going to save my wife." "What about these people?" The captain looked at Augustine and his men. "Should we just kill them right here?" Lu Tingxiao shook his head. He was reminded of how they insulted Ningxi and tore off her clothes, so he said coldly, "I remember the American military has a unique interrogation system." The captain understood immediately. "Haha, I got you, Mr. Lu. Let me handle them, I'll not let you down." "Thank you." Lu Tingxiao nodded his head slightly. "Get these people on the truck and take them away," a corporal beside the captain ordered. Augustine and his men were being taken away by force, without any means to resist. Augustine hung his head gloomily as if he was a corpse. He thought what Tang Yi had done to him was his greatest despair, but he had yet to know what was going to happen to him next. The interrogation system of the American military would be a real hell on earth. Half an hour later, somewhere in Philadelphia, two military fighter jets soared through the city skyline and multiple war tanks closed in, forcing the armored cars to come to a halt. Although there were heavy defenses on the armored cars, they dared not act rashly when facing a war tank. After all, those were American war tanks and not toy cars. One shot from that thing would totally destroy the armored car. American military? Feng Jin was surprised by the situation. Could their activity tonight have exposed them to the American military? Both parties came to a standstill. The air was tense and no one made a move yet. What happened? The man in the silver car asked as the group stopped advancing forward. In the car, Ningxi looked pale due to the excessive blood loss. She did not have the strength to care about what was happening outside, but she just opened her eyes halfway after hearing some commotion. Tang Yi came over from another armored car and reported, "It's the military." The man in the silver car coolly reacted, "Oh?" Philadelphia had always been a lawless area, yet the military was meddling this time? It seemed like they had allocated every resource they had available to this area. Interesting. The man got down from the car with a grin on his face. In one of the war tanks, the captain felt that something was amiss when he saw the silver-haired man get down from the car. He had not expected for him to be back. The captain did not really care what he did in the dark, but he had left the military in an awkward position this time by meddling with trouble. "Captain Waymond, good day. What brings you here today?" greeted the man arrogantly, acting like Philadelphia was his own base. Feng Jin was concerned about the man's ego. He never knew how to restrain himself. They were already in a bad enough situation and provoking the military was not the best idea to get them out of there. The captain simmered with anger, but he put on a calmly stern facade. "Hand over the person you abducted. Let's save each other's time." He strictly followed the orders he had received and tried to solve the issue peacefully. Things were easy if it had just been Augustine to deal with, but for him, if both parties ended up in a fight, the cost would be too great. Most up-to-date novels are published on n0velgen.co/m. The silver-haired man raised his brows. "The person he abducted? Who exactly did I abduct?" the man asked in heightened interest. As the captain was about to continue persuading him, a person alighted from a car at the back. The man was still wearing the black suit from the cocktail party and he had an icy cold aura around him. In a steely tone that matched his fierce eyes, he enunciated, "My wife." The moment the man appeared, the silver-haired man suddenly became sharp and aggressive rather than indifferent. He clenched his teeth and said, "Lu Tingxiao." The two men were a dozen steps apart, one evil, one ice-cold. The air had invisible sparks lighting up. In the silver car, Ningxi suddenly woke up. What happened? She thought, she just heard Lu Tingxiao's voice? No, impossible. Why would Lu Tingxiao be here? It must be a hallucination. The light in Ningxi's eyes faded quickly, but the small tiny spark of hope in her heart urged her to look outside the window. She was astonished when she finally saw what was happening. In front of that intimidating black fighter jet and war tank stood a familiar, mountainous figure. He emitted an aura of winter, but he warmed her heart. Lu Tingxiao. It was really him. After a long suffocating silence, the silver-haired man spoke up, "Ha, funny. Who's your wife?" Before Lu Tingxiao could say anything, a head popped out of the silver car. Ningxi waved while yelling, me, it's me. Save me, boss." The moment he saw the girl, Lu Tingxiao's frozen demeanor instantly cracked. Ningxi. It had only been a few hours from when he had received Jiang Mai's phone call till now, but it felt like a few lifetimes long. He had finally found her. When he heard Ningxi's words, the silver-haired man could not remain cool any longer. In frustration, he immediately turned around to berate her, "Me, your backside. Get back in. Tang Yi, take her away." He was immediately annoyed by her. How dare she cheat on him right in his face? She was really going against him now. Feng Jin coughed slightly and Feng Xiaoxiao rubbed her nose speechlessly and looked at the sky innocently. Tang Yi looked like he had predicted all of this as he followed Satan's orders and walked over to start the engine. Watching the scenery rolling backwards quickly through the window and her distance from Lu Tingxiao increasing, Ningxi instantly anxiously leaned out of the car window and cried very sadly, "I don't want to go, I don't want to. Boss, save me, save me." Looking at the girl's miserable little face, Lu Tingxiao felt his heart tighten and he felt an even more indescribable feeling of joy. Wasn't this silver-haired man the one she liked? Why did she actually admit that she was his wife? Could it be that they were quarreling? Or the silver-haired guy was struggling to swallow his anger that was about to lose control of and said with his best nonchalant tone, "Huh. When my baby was in danger, where were you? I saved her and now you're here to take all the credit." EAD new chapter S on no/v/e/ln. Calm. My baby? When Lu Tingxiao heard this, he immediately sealed off all the warmth he felt and said with a poker face, "Who should my wife thank for the danger? You." The man was speechless. It was true that Augustine only picked on Ningxi because of him and that if he had not arranged to meet Ningxi here, she would not have met with danger. After that, it was not sure what the man had thought, but he started to be suspicious and looked at Feng Xiaoxiao. When did the brat change her name to Nei Ren? Feng Xiaoxiao felt a trickle of cold sweat run down her forehead as she replied, Boss, Nei Ren is not a name. It's a form of address for your wife, basically it means my wife." The silver-haired man immediately roared, "What the? Your backside. Is it official now? You're Nei Ren." When he saw that Madame Lu was safe, the captain could finally be temporarily relieved as he continued to advise Satan, "Let Madame Lu go. Everything can be negotiated, that's all I can say. If you continue to not take heed, don't blame us for using violence." It is my utmost wish." Not only did the silver-haired guy not back down, he actually seemed to look even more excited. His light brown eyes were fixated on Lu Tingxiao like an animal. Feng Shi frowned and said, "Satan, you can't. The boat is arriving soon. We can leave immediately, there's no need for conflict with them at such a time." He was obviously very against the idea of ruining any plans for the woman. He had already disagreed with the previous plan of going against Augustine with such a huge force as he was afraid that something might go wrong. Alas, the situation had been worse than he foresaw. "Satan, yield for a moment and the wind shall calm while the wave subsides. Just let them have her first. We can always." "Shut up." Helplessly, Feng Jin looked towards Feng Xiaoxiao to ask for help. Feng Xiaoxiao shrugged and looked willing but unable to help. She did not know why every time that guy met something related to Lu Tingxiao, he would itch for a bloody fight. Plus, this time it was related to the little junior sister, so it was a lost cause no matter who advised him. On the other side, the captain solemnly advised Lu Tingxiao, "Mr. Lu, the situation doesn't look positive. I can threaten them here and there, but if we really were to mobilize firearms, this won't do." "Why not?" Lu Tingxiao's eyes blazed murderously. He was already prepared to give it his all. Big deal, he would just agree to Minister Naka's disadvantageous conditions. So what if this war was incited? Initially, he had some hesitations when he saw the silver-haired man because he recognized that this was who Ningxi had mentioned, the person she really liked. However, it turned out that she had taken such a huge risk and gone through such danger to travel to Philadelphia secretly just to see him. She had followed him willingly. Such a fact pierced his heart like an arrow, saddening him deeply. Though, the moment he felt hopeless, Ningxi had suddenly appeared and actually admitted herself as his wife. She obviously did not want to leave with this person. She begged him for help. He had experienced death in a moment and was revived in the next. Lu Tingxiao had instantly returned to the human realm from hell. Regardless of what and how, he had to bring her home with him today. And at that moment, the silver-haired guy's thoughts were barely in sync with Lu Tingxiao's. Brat! Don't want to leave with me? Then, I will take you away with me. Big senior brother, just let me go, okay? Please, I'm begging you? T/his chapter is up.d by NVEL, bin.co/m. Big senior brother, if you let me go today, I will be your slave to return my gratitude in the next lifetime. Big senior brother, do you really not care about brotherhood anymore? Am I not still the little junior sister you love the most? In the car, no matter how Ningxi begged, Tang Yi was not moved at all. Finally, Ningxi gave up and hopelessly slumped on the car seat, recalling the heady moment she saw Lu Tingxiao. The more she thought about it, the more she felt miserable. It would be better if there was no hope at all. In such a moment, she had unexpectedly seen him. Even though this little car looked shabby, it was still functioning well and Tang Yi could drive it away pretty quickly. When they were about to reach the jetty, a person suddenly appeared on the road in front of them. She and Tang Yi would never have thought that someone would appear here at that moment. Tang Yi halted the car with the emergency brake and stopped half a meter from the man. They saw that the person who blocked their way was someone with curly brown hair, tan skin, and a nonchalant expression. It was... Ningxi was so shocked that she stuttered, "Second, second, second." Second what? The man's brows raised and in that moment, to Ningxi, it was like millions of cherry blossom trees had flowered. Second senior brother. Second senior brother. Second senior brother, second senior brother, second senior brother. Ningxi's expression was so emotional as if she was a crazy fan who had just seen her favorite idol and she started to cheer with sheer joy. She even forgot that the wound on her thigh hurt, jumping out the car and running over. Second senior brother. It really is you. The man laughed heartily. Ha 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 ha. Little senior sister, miss me? I miss you. Oh, second senior brother, I missed you so much. Ningxi's eyes teared up. She had not seen him for so long and she really did miss him a lot. She had been afraid of many people back then, but Tang Ling was the one person she had always wanted to see the most and liked being close to. The guy rubbed her messy long hair and said, good girl, good girl. I missed you too. Little junior sister, your hair is so long already. You look nice with long hair. Turns out that you're a really pretty little girl. Obviously. I look even prettier in female clothes. Second senior brother, where did you disappear to? Big senior brother said he hasn't seen you for over half a year. And you haven't contacted me either. Ningxi lamented. Tang Ling looked at her with his eyebrows raised and said, touché. The both of them reminisced for a long while until Tang Yi interrupted, Tang Ling. Check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. Tang Yi called out for the man's name without any expression on his face, only his eyes questioning silently. Aha! Senior brother, long time no see. Did you miss me? Tang Ling flung his arm over Tang Yi's shoulders and leaned against him carelessly. Tang Yi pushed him away with one hand roughly and said, Master has been looking for you. Tang Ling insistently leaned on him again. Only Master? What about you? On the side, Ningxi covered her eyes and said, I can't look anymore. There are children here. Our nation's flowers are about to be terribly influenced by you too. Tang Ling hit her lightly on the head and said, You're the flower? The flower overlord? Pfft. I'm a little white flower. She was already in such misery. Wasn't she a tragic little white flower now? When Tang Lang heard that, it was like he had heard the funniest joke in the world as he held his tummy and burst into laughter. "You little white flower. Ha 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 ha." Ningxi was angry now. "Hey! Why can't I be a little white flower? Do you have to laugh this hard? Ha 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 ha." Tang Lang held onto his tummy and laughed so hard he could not say anything. Ningxi did not notice how, but all she saw was that while Tang Lang was still laughing hard, his arm suddenly moved to the back of Tang Ye's neck and injected a clear liquid into the man. Tang Ye did not even have the time to react before he fell over. "Oh my God! Second senior brother. What are you doing? Why did you attack big senior brother?" Ningxi was shocked. "You lil dummy. Obviously to save you." Tang Lang exclaimed as he carried Tang Ye's limp body and carefully put him by the roadside. Ningxi was still stunned. "Save me? No time for explanations. Just come with me quickly." Tang Lang rushed as he quickly helped Ningxi to the car, then got into the driver's seat. The moment Tang Lang got in, he was bewildered. "My God! Why did Satan get this outdated vintage car? How do I drive this junk? I know how to. But my leg is hurt. I can't move it. Quickly teach me." Okay, let me teach you." While the two were still getting the hang of driving the car, an arm suddenly slotted in from the car window and gripped onto Tang Lang, who was in the driver's seat, hauling him out of the car through the window. Tang Ye, who had been unconscious, was standing by the car shakily and holding onto Tang Lang's shirt while looking scary. "Tang Lang!" Tang Lang escaped by turning around and out of his coat before he looked at the man in disbelief. "Jesus! Tang Ye, you psycho! I've already used double the amount. How are you awake so soon?" Tang Ye looked at him like a statue, his jet black eyes as sharp as daggers. "Explain." Tang Lang frowned, his tone slightly annoyed. "I have nothing to explain. The truth is as what you see." Tang Ye gritted his teeth. "You betrayed the organization." Tang Lang scoffed and looked around, his mouth curved into a smile. "Huh, yeah, I did. What about it? Do you want to wipe me out?" Looking at his opponent's indifferent attitude, Tang Ye held his fist tight, to the point his finger joints cracked. Hidden behind his glasses were his rage and pain. "You." Looking at Tang Ye's hurtful eyes, Tang Lang avoided eye contact and closed his eyes. "Senior brother, let's have a match. The one who wins will take little junior sister away. How does that sound?" After a short moment of silence, Tang Ye replied coolly, "Sure." Ningxi was totally confused about the current situation. What was happening? Did second senior brother betray the organization? Who was he working for now? It seemed like he was trying to knock out first senior brother to save her. Could he possibly be working for the devil now? Impossible. This did not make sense. How could second senior brother be related to the devil? But currently, this was the only explanation. Otherwise, second senior brother would not have appeared here and dared to oppose Satan to try to rescue her. While Ningxi was still figuring things out, both of them were at each other's throats. Unfortunately, Tang Lang could not go on the offensive, there was no opening. The small ray of hope in Ningxi's heart suddenly diminished and she yelled at him, "Second senior brother, can you or can't you do it?" Tang Lang clenched his teeth while trying to fend off Tang Ye's crazy attacks. Never ask a man if he can do it. The situation changed after his reply. Ningxi's eyes shone brightly again. Tang Lang had gotten serious and his ferocity intensified. He began his counter, but he was still relaxed enough to keep on talking. "Yo, the old man was really biased. He sure taught you a lot of new stuff." Ningxi was annoyed. He had been missing for half a year. Of course, the master only had first senior brother to teach. There was something even worse. Tang Lang's talent was out of the world. He could actually observe and learn Tang Ye's new skills on the spot, and he rebounded the attack back at him. Ningxi was impressed. Too bad, there was no popcorn for her to enjoy the show. Upon seeing his skills being easily copied on the spot, something went off within Tang Yi. He suddenly stepped back and took on a resting stance. He stared at Tang Lang, then he raised his hand to take off his glasses. Ningxi's heart sank to the pits of her stomach. This was bad. She did not realize that first senior brother had not taken off his glasses for the whole fight, meaning that he had not utilized his full power yet. Even Tang Lang was being wary and anxious at that moment. EAD new chapter S on no/v/e/ln.com. Ningxi's worry had materialized. Tang Yi without his glasses was like an unrestrained beast. His attack powers rose sharply when that happened. Ningxi could tell that second senior brother had no other choice but to use his full power this time. It was a tough fight between the both of them. Tang Lang cursed to himself countless times. He had thought that Tang Yi had reached the bottleneck and could not possibly reach new heights in a mere half a year. He thought he could win, but apparently, he had underestimated Tang Yi. This guy had crazily outstanding talent. It was truly inhuman for him to improve this tremendously in such a short time. There was no more meaning in continuing to fight, it would have ended up in a draw. Regardless, time would not wait for no man. He could not wait any further and he needed to get Ningxi away soon as Satan's men would be here anytime. He had to think of something fail-safe. Damn it! It was simply too hard. Tang Yi was too careful and there was no opening at all. He was just distracted ever so slightly by trying to think of an escape plan and a solid punch landed on his face. Pain exploded on his cheek. You bastard, Tang Yi. Are you really trying to kill me? What a heavy blow! I'll not give you another chance if you get distracted again. Tang Yi gave him a cold side eye. Tang Lang's nostrils flared. Damn it! He was going to wait patiently until Tang Yi was distracted. Their fight continued. Tang Lang tried to aim for his fatal points, but Tang Yi moved forward instead of avoiding him, showing no signs of fear at all. Tang Lang would not be able to attack at such a close range. Instead, he was paving a path to his own grave. As Tang Lang got closer, he had a weird grin on his face. It was too late when Tang Yi realized that something fishy was up. Tang Lang directly kissed him. They kissed! Tang Lang quickly held Tang Yi by his throat and pushed him onto the car as he was distracted by the shocking kiss. He murmured, "Senior brother, you lose." Ningxi was startled. Daya Wamam. My eyes. Second senior brother. That was so wrong. As long as it worked. Tang Lang was proud of his tactic and he smilingly turned to Tang Yi. Senior brother, you'd admit defeat, right? Tang Yi suppressed his urge to smash him into pieces and took a deep breath. He had fulfilled his promise. Get lost. As you wish. As if afraid that Tang Yi would regret his decision, Tang Lang quickly slung Ningxi over his shoulder and ran away swiftly while quickly sending a text on his phone at the same time, retreat. On the other battleground, both parties came to a standstill. The air was tense. The captain was trying his best to persuade Satan but to no effect. Time passed and dawn broke slowly, yet both parties did not show any signs of retreating. The silver-haired man yawned and looked impatient. Such troublesome creatures. Are we fighting or not? As Lu Tingxiao was about to reply him, he received a text message, which caught him by surprise, but he masked his reaction to the content well and no one noticed. He then looked at the man and grandly said, "As you wish." The silver-haired man felt a strong bloodlust rise within himself. Feng Jin did not plan to rely on his employer's sanity since their opponent was Lu Tingxiao, and he expected the latter to make a rational choice. However, seeing that Lu Tingxiao was just as unreliable, he was deeply troubled. The captain was even more afraid. "Mr. Lu, we can't fight them." He was not worried about the outcome of this fight. America was barely standing its ground in the war now, and if one of their main forces were to be defeated here, other countries might seize the chance and infiltrate the motherland. A military-grade SUV closed in quickly. The door opened and Minister Naka got down with a few of his subordinates in tow. The captain had had to inform his superior of the uncontrollable situation. Minister Naka went up to Lu Tingxiao nervously and urged, "Mr. Lu, you promised to solve this peacefully." "I said I'll try," Lu Tingxiao replied. "Mr. Lu, I know you're deeply concerned about your wife, but there are many other ways to rescue her. It isn't too late to take action after they set sail. There's no point to clash here, is there?" Minister Naka tried his best to convince him. Discover new stories at nv/lbin.c/o. Lu Tingxiao's expression appeared to waver. The minister continued with his persuasion. After a long while, Lu Tingxiao decided with a darkened expression, "Retreat." The silver-haired man sneered at him. "Ah, retreating already? Did I even allow such a thing?" He already guessed based on Lu Tingxiao's personality that he would never do something so irrational just for a woman, and hence, the fight would not happen. But Feng Jin was clueless, so he had quickly gone up to ask him to stop provoking them and ordered his people to retreat at the same time. The man yawned and went back to his armored car cheerfully. The girl was already with him and he wanted to get her back. In his dreams, the sea was his turf. Watching the crowd disperse, Minister Naka was relieved, but some new worries loomed on the horizon. Lu Tingxiao would never let them get away for abducting his beloved wife. The worst part was that he had no idea what plans to propose to rescue Madame Lu. He had just been trying to calm Lu Tingxiao down and lied. If Satan took to the seas, it would be even more impossible to save anyone from him. Minister Naka's plan was to send as many people as he could, but he still would not know if the rescue mission would end up successful or otherwise. "Mr. Lu, let's go back to DC and devise an elaborate plan." Minister Naka was trying to comfort Lu Tingxiao, but the man suddenly urgently ordered, "Go back to the outskirts of Philadelphia." Minister Naka was confused and had no idea why he wanted to go there, but he felt guilty, so he ordered his men to follow Lu Tingxiao's orders. A few hundred meters away from the meeting point, Lu Tingxiao jumped off the tank and hurried by foot.
"Hey!
Boss! We're here!" Somewhere not too far away, someone was yelling. A brown-haired man was holding a slender girl with long hair. That girl seemed like... Lu Tingxiao ran towards them. Beside the brown-haired man was the profusely injured girl. With so much that happened to her, she was barely conscious now. She only saw a familiar shadow block out the light and she mumbled, "Lu Tingxiao." Before she lost consciousness, she felt a warm embrace and heard a whisper by her ear, "It's me. Sorry, I'm late." Well, truckers, that's all for this part. See you all in the next video.